Mr. Chair, we've now started the YouTube, so whenever you want to start, yeah, you can start.
Good morning. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. Before I continue, I'd like to introduce our panel for this morning. On my far left, Sophia Ruddick. On my immediate left, Stan Kumaric. On my immediate right, Rick Ross. And on my far right, Bill Dalton. And I'm Donald Taylor, the chair this morning. I'd also like to introduce on my far left on this desk, Barbara Bartosik, our Deputy Secretary Treasurer. And in front of me and at the right end of this desk is our support staff. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid, in-person, and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we first call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Okay, before we continue, we need confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting, which I believe was March 28th.
I'll move approval of those minutes.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Mark, and a seconder. Mr. Second that. Oh, we'll give that one to Bill. No, we'll give it to Rick.
Now we know I got the cameras with the photo finish, right?
All in favor? That's unanimously approved. Panel or staff, are there any declarations of interest for this morning's time slot? There are no declarations of interest. Thank you. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral from this morning's agenda?
We have items 8 and 9, Mr. Chair.
8 and 9, okay. Okay, once we get there in a moment, we will deal with those two deferrals first. And Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we have any files to close this morning?
None today, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Oh, I missed a page.
Nobody called
I missed page 2. No, I'm going to read it. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body and in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda with the exception of the two deferrals we have this morning. As I mentioned, items 8 and 9, we'll deal with them first and then go back to 1 and proceed through. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, the applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. So that concludes our opening remarks. So let's start going through the agenda, and we will start with item number 8, 29 BRAYWIN Drive. We have a deferral requested by Community Planning to provide staff with time to review the application and discuss with the applicant. And in additional information, we had confirmation that, in fact, the applicant itself has requested deferral, and I believe we heard Ms. Evangelista confirming that a few minutes ago. So, Ms. Evangelista, are you on the line?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners of 29 BRAYWIN. Mr. Chair and members, I am asking for a deferral. We were working with planning staff. They asked us to revise the plans, and in doing so, in light of the changes, a new variant has come up. So unfortunately, we have to defer.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the hearing room that came to here today to speak to item 8, 29 BRAYWIN Drive? No? And I don't believe we have any registered speakers on the line.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so then I guess we can go into committee and make a decision on this. Asking for a motion to defer.
Mr. Chair, I'll move a motion to defer item 8, 29 Braywin Drive, so that the applicant can process with planning and revise the variances.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Is there a seconder for Mr. Kumar?
I will second that motion.
Okay. I'm giving Bill the next one, though. All in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, I will now move to, or we will now move to item 9. We have a request to defer from planning because a new public notice is required. So in effect, this is an automatic deferral. There's nothing really to discuss or debate on this. Is Mr. Enriquez online? In the room?
He's on the line, Mr. Chair. Just give me 1 second. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Hello, my name's Tony Henriquez. I'm the agent for the owners of 40 OVIDA Road, Avenue, sorry.
Yes, okay, so you understand that because you need a new public notice, this item must be deferred today?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do understand. I actually moved the house over forward as requested by planning, and I eliminated one variance but created another.
Okay, so you'll need a new notice, and we'll have to defer
Yes.
this from consideration today. Okay, now, we have a registered speaker, Peter Morris. Mr. Morris, are you in the hearing room this morning? Or online,
Hi.
Adam?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm online.
Mr. Morris, hi. So if hopefully you heard, but this item requires a new notice because the variances are changing. So are you okay with proceeding to defer this?
Oh, I'm fine. Will I have an opportunity to speak at
Yes.
that?
The revised notice will be circulated in the usual fashion, so anybody that got this notice will get the new one, and you will certainly have an opportunity to speak at the next hearing when this is on the agenda.
Okay. And when
Okay.
it comes up again with this deferral, the concerns I raised in my documentation, are they part of this deferral or it's unrelated?
No, we're not considering the merits at all today. So whatever
Right.
you have said will have to be parked until this comes back. And I would
Okay,
suggest
so-
that you submit your comments, or at least be prepared to speak next time you get the notice.
All right, that's fine, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're good to go on this one. We need a motion to defer item 9.
So I will move to defer item 9 to give the applicant an opportunity to have the new variance added and have it recirculated to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
No, it's
Oh,
Mr. Dalton's turn.
Sorry,
He's tried to move.
it's all yours.
He's tried to move the last 5 and he's been shut out. All in favor? That's unanimously approved, so that's a deferral as well.
Deferred, not approved.
Defer,
Yes.
defer, not refer. Okay, now we can go back and start dealing with the agenda in numerical order. Starting with item number 1, which is 44 MEADOWVALE Drive. We have a revised revised agenda. The purpose of this application is to construct a 2-story front addition and a 2nd-story rear addition above the existing dwelling. We have on file Urban Forestry requesting refusal, or in the alternative, conditions 1 and 2. We have 3 conditions from Transportation Services. We have 5 opposition letters, and we have an opposition petition. So, Addison Milne Pierce, the agent.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. So, Addison, can you take us through a briefing on this?
Yes, I would actually like to begin by requesting for a deferral of this application. I apologize, I was not able to send in a letter in advance of this hearing because the decision to defer was only made last evening from the owner. However, we would like a chance to defer in order to discuss with Urban Forestry and potentially with the neighbors as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We do have two registered speakers on this item, Don Alaschuk and Tom Goff. Are either of those people, you're in the hearing room? Don, and Mr. Goff, or Goff, he can tell me. Is he online, Adam?
Yep, Mr. Goff is online.
Okay, we'll get to you in a moment, Mr. Goff. If I could ask Don Alaschuk to come up to the podium, please. Okay, could you give us your name and address?
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Dawn Ellischek, 42 Meadowvale Drive.
Okay. So just to sort of bring you up to speed where we're at, last minute request to defer this item
Right,
so that they can deal with neighbors, presumably like yourself, and urban forestry.
right.
So are you satisfied that deferral is the way to proceed? You okay with that?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, that's good. That's perfect, thank you. That's
Okay,
all we need.
That's it.
And you'll be getting notice once they've decided to come back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Goff?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank
So-
you very much. I'm Tom Goff from 30.
Okay,
I'm
thank you,
Tom
Mr.
Goff
Goff.
from 36.
Thank you. So you've heard that the applicant wishes to defer this application to consult with the neighbors and deal with urban forestry. So they want to defer to a future hearing date. Are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm fine.
That's good to know. You'll be
Yes, I'm
getting,
fine with that.
and you'll be getting a notice when the new application's ready to be submitted. So you'll have an opportunity to speak or write in about it at that time, okay?
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you
Thank you
very
very much.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have a motion to defer item 1?
It might be my turn.
Ms. Ruddock, thank you very
I'm
much.
happy
And a
to-
seconder?
I will second the motion.
No, Mr. Dalton beat you. You gotta put your finger up.
I just want everyone to understand, we don't get paid for the number of motions. Not a contest, we're okay.
So moved by Ms. Ruddock, seconded by Mr. Dalton for deferral. All in favor? That is unanimous.
I tried, but they'll beat me.
Okay, we can now move on to item 2, which is 12 Connie Street. The purpose of the application is to construct a one-story rear sunroom and terrace. I see this as a very straightforward application, no opposition. There's a planning condition, we have a Metrolinx advisory, 4 variances, and I noted that the south side lot line was approved by the Committee of Adjustment in August 2021. So, Mr. Lacasano is the agent. Sir, are you online?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Hi.
Yes, good morning, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
I
Committee
don't,
members.
I just, to interrupt just for a second, this is very straightforward. I don't believe we need a presentation from you.
Okay.
Would you be okay with limiting your participation to answering questions, if any, from the panel?
Sure.
Okay, well, why don't we do it that way then? Panel, any questions for
Okay.
Mr. Lacasano? None? Okay, is there anyone in the room that came to speak about 12 Connie Street? No? And no one online, Adam?
No, no one online, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then, so we'll go right into committee then for a motion on this one.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to move a motion. I find the application meets the 4 tests, and as you said, it's straightforward. I'd like to move a motion to approve with no conditions.
Okay, thank you. And a seconder?
Sorry, there is planning condition, I believe.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah, I'm looking right at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, subject to planning condition tying it to the site plan.
Perfect. And a seconder? Mr. Dalton, all in favor? That is unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Lacasano. Moving on now to item 3, 79 Ashburn Drive. We have a revised notice on this application, which is to construct a new detached dwelling with a detached garage. We have Urban Forestry requesting refusal, and in the alternative, condition 2. And we have a request by the Community Planning Department for deferral to provide staff with time to review the application more thoroughly and to discuss the variances with the applicant. Oh, and we also have a very recent addition. We have a registered speaker, Ik Chong Jung, who I'll get to at the appropriate time. Marin Zubzini is the agent.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay, so if you could maybe focus your presentation on this deferral request from Community Planning. They'd like to spend more time reviewing this application and to talk to you about some of the variances.
So we've actually worked closely with planning and removed most of the variances. We sent an update weeks ago, and they're mostly satisfied with all the changes, and then they requested that we can lower the coverage slightly more and building length. We did revise the coverage further. We sent it back, and they haven't got back to us since, but given the supporting evidence of other lot coverage approvals in the area and our rationale that the house itself actually complies with lot coverage is mostly due to the rear deck, we would like to proceed with a presentation as we've made significant strides to make sure this home is appropriate for the neighborhood, and we would like to present the reasoning why.
Okay, just before you do that, I want to have a bit of a discussion with the panel here. Can we go into committee, Madam Deputy Secretary, and then come out? Okay, just bear with us for a second here. I guess the issue I'll just table, and we had a bit of a chat about this actually in the briefing this morning, generally, is the fact that we have substantial revisions and we don't have anything in writing or orally or otherwise from the Community Planning Department who requested this deferral. The applicant is, if he proceeds to through the presentation, he's going to be discussing this, but it's not going to change the fact that we don't have any information from the Community Planning Department to affirm their support. It appears they may be in support. The agent has told us that he's had conversations with them that they are in support, but we don't have it in front of us. So I guess the issue for us is, do we proceed with a deferral in respect of community planning, or do we allow Mr. Zabzuni to make a presentation which would suggest that we might be considering something other than deferral? I'm just trying to save time here.
And members, he has advised you this morning that he's made subsequent revisions, but you don't have those revisions before you today.
That's even more problematic. Okay, so there's another.
The revision should be there.
Well, details are differences, so.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the comment I wanted to make is that just the changes that we do have before us are so substantial that it essentially is a different application from what was sent out as part of notice. I mean, it's all beneficial in the sense that all of the variances are substantially improved and or eliminated, but it's very extensive revisions. So those are my comments.
So we're still in committee. Are you, do you want to just leave it at comments for now, or?
I would just make a comment. I am not comfortable accepting what planning may or may not say without having it at least orally or in writing.
Mr. Dalton, you're of the same mind?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And if anyone doesn't have any other comment, I'd like to.
Ms. Ruddick, any comment? You're in agreement too?
I'm in agreement.
Okay, it sounds like we're in a position, Mr. Zabzuni, of considering a motion to defer this, so we won't be requiring a presentation from you, but let's just wait and see how this decision pans out. So I'm looking for a motion then to defer.
We still have someone.
Oh, yes, we do. I'm sorry. Ik Chong Jung, are you online? Oh, you're here.
They're in person. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so could you give us your name and address, please?
81 Ashbourne Drive. My name is Ik-Chang Jung.
Okay, so you're an immediate neighbor.
Yeah, just next
And
door.
you've heard the bit of conversation that was going on
Yeah,
here?
I heard yeah.
Are you okay with a deferral to give?
I'm okay with that.
Some more. That's good to know.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're good to go then. We can consider a motion.
I'd like to move a motion to defer this item, given the substantial changes to it.
Okay, a seconder?
I will second that motion.
Mr. Ross, thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, Mr. Zabzuni, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Okay. So item 4 is 171 Carlingview Drive. The purpose of the application is to permit a vehicle rental establishment. We have community planning requesting refusal, and we have received very recently an applicant's presentation. So,
Mr. Chair, we also have last-minute comments from the counselor, which we'll share on the screen.
from the counselor?
We haven't seen
We're not going to see that, or just?
We're going to share it on the screen. We just
Okay.
received it this
Yeah,
morning.
maybe we should just consider this for a second.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we're working on bringing it up. Our Adobe isn't cooperating as well as we'd like it to today. There you go.
Okay, so we have the counselor in support of the application. Stephen G. Armstrong is the agent. Mr. Armstrong?
Yes. Good. Hi, good morning. How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for sharing with me virtually. I'm going to make a note if I'm before you again, I'm going to show up in person. I missed the days standing at the podium at the Etobicoke City Center. So.
Well, yeah. You got to brave the weather and get out here.
That's good. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a brief presentation and an overview, and I'm cognizant of the staff recommendation. I have to be frank, I obviously don't support the recommendation for a rezoning, and I'll be able to show the committee through my presentation that this application does make the 4 tests. It is quite minor in the sense of we are asking for a car rental establishment. What I'll be able to show the committee is twofold, is that many of the uses that we need to undertake on the site are already actually permitted as of right, but through a strange use missing is actually a car rental agency can't run under their current zoning, but it can do. So if I can just show you, we're proposing to open up an Avis rental car location on the site. Avis has quite a substantial operation at the airport, and they're looking to create a satellite operation that will complement the airport operation during peak times, but also to provide a service in the area for those that rent cars, that need cars for the day, the week. If you're in a car accident, there's lots of auto body shops. So it's an existing building that's vacant. It was a former restaurant. The site is vacant. On this slide right here, you'll see they're proposing to retrofit the inside. One of the things on the slide is you can see the retail store area. It's basically by the washroom and the lunchroom. For the committee's background, everything else is actually permitted on this site, but that retail area, which is approximately 1,000 square feet, is technically not allowed under the current zoning. So in essence, although the variance is to allow a car dealership, under the definition of car dealership, it allows for a rental operation. So in terms of the official plan, again, it's my submission to the committee that it meets the intent. It's core employment. Core employment allows rental operations. There's many in that purple area. You can see in terms of the zone. Oh, sorry, if you can just go back one slide, sorry. Yeah, just on terms of the zone, the E1, you can see these are the permitted uses currently: vehicle depot, vehicle fuel station, vehicle repair, vehicle service, washing. These are all functions that Avis will do on the site. Those are as of right. So again, it's my submission that the intent of the bylaw is being met. Next slide. This gives you just an overview where the site is. If we can go to the next slide, actually. This gives you a better idea. The current Avis operation, you can see on the middle of the screen on the bottom, that's their airport. You can see the subject site, let's say not top right, but mid up in the where it's red. What's interesting is right across the street from us is an enterprise car rental operation, identical to what we're proposing on the site. Next slide. So in terms of the 4 tests, it's my submission that the general intent of the official plans being met. It's core employment, the zoning bylaw, I believe, in my view, the intent's being met. The retail operation or the rental office operation is quite minor. It's basically 2% of the site area or 10% of the building. And to be frank, at some point we were wondering if it's even an ancillary use to the current permitted uses. But because it's Avis, again, for the committee, I think this is important. This is a blue chip company and a blue chip operation, and they wanted just to make sure there was no ambiguity in their operations. So they wanted to come to staff and the committee to get this down so there'd be no ambiguity. In terms of a rezoning, I have to say, staff has this blanket policy. I'm sure you see it more than I do, that they won't support uses added, but it's my respectful submission that this is exactly why you have a committee of adjustment to deal with these minor. I don't think a rezoning would be in the public interest, provide any more meaningful input that I'm doing today. And frankly, 12, 18 months of staff time, my time and Ava's time, I don't think is time well spent. So this use is quite desirable. I think it's appropriate for the area. And I think because of what they want to do, it's my submission that I would ask the committee to approve the variance as proposed. Thank you very much for hearing me today.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Panel, any questions for Mr. Armstrong?
Yeah.
Mr. Kumar?
I think those.
Oh, Mr. Dalton.
The enterprise car rental agency seems to be directly across the street. It has the same zoning. What approval did they get?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we tried to pull up some old information through you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, we weren't able to find it, but to be truthful, we think in the prior bylaw, a car rental agency was defined. And this is just me guessing, sir. But we couldn't find any records of a variance or a rezoning.
So is that same then for
So under the current, sorry, but just Mr. Chairman, so it's zoned exactly the same way we're zoned across the street, but somehow we were not able. We tried to request further information, but we weren't able to find anything to nail down because I knew that would be a question of the committee. But today, when it's zoned, it would be in essence a legal non-conforming use based on past, we believe, approvals.
So then just to close the loop, then the Park and Fly, the car rental, and the Avis budget group further down the street, all on E1. Do you know how they were approved?
Same way, we believe, but again, this is me just through more verbal type of research in the area. But all of those uses, you're correct, are zoned the exact same. So in theory, car rental isn't a permitted use under the employment zone.
No, I understand that. It's just I'm trying to see if there's a precedent in the area that established it by way of either variance, or did they go through zoning bylaw amendment? So I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, so I can tell you that unfortunately or fortunately, there wasn't a precedent that I could point to, but that's in terms of the zoning, that's why in terms of uses permitted, the only use not allowed on the site is the actual physical walking up to the counter and renting the car. Everything else
understood.
Is permitted.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm somewhat compelled by the fact that the rental component is only 2%, and it sort of, as the presentation was going on, it was going through my mind too that, you know, are you really just asking for ancillary use to what's already permitted? So would you be objectionable to us limiting the amount of space that the rental operation would take up in that as a percentage of the total site?
No, I would be in total agreement if the committee wanted to reference the site plan or the square footage of 1,000 square feet. I would be more than supportive. In fact, not to take up a lot of your time, I would have been more specific in the variance, but the car dealership definition was just something that we were working with in terms of that it allows rental. But to answer your question, I would be fully supportive of a decision that said the retail office space not exceed, it's just under 1,000 feet. If you wanted to round a number, 1,000 feet would be fine with me.
Yeah, or even as a percentage, if we were to state that it would be no more than 5% of the total area or something like that, would that be acceptable as well?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, that would be very acceptable. I think, as I said, Avis is a very corporate company, is a good way, and they just want to make sure everything's buttoned up. And I think this would fully address any concerns they had.
Okay, thank you.
Corporately.
Mr. Chair, the only question I would have, that relates to the building, but does that then restrict them from having the vehicles on site?
Well, if the purpose of the vehicles being on site is to have them washed and serviced, then I don't think it should.
Not the servicing, but to have them on the site for
display?
rental.
Yeah, if I can, Mr. Chairman, under the zone, again, I'm happy to go with whatever the committee wants. It does allow a vehicle depot, which allows me to park on the site. So again, as I was saying, which is I was going to say funny, but nothing's so funny, is that the depot, the fueling, the repair, the service, even the washing, I could literally be doing that today on the site, or Avis, sorry, could be doing that. But whatever the committee sees as the best way to make a decision, either on a site, 5% can't exceed for the retail part of the operation. I think that would be a way to go.
Okay. Ms. Reddick, any comments or questions? Okay. Is there anyone in the hearing room that came to speak about 171 Carlingview? No.
No, Mr. Chair.
And no one online?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we can go into committee then for a decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that there are similar uses in the general vicinity. And again, I think it's, to me, the only issue is the retail component. And if we limit the retail component to no more than 5%, I think that becomes an ancillary use to what's already permitted. So, I don't know if anyone has any other comments on that.
And I was prepared to, if that's a motion, to second that motion.
Well, let me rephrase
There's
that.
a motion,
Let me
yeah.
rephrase that then. I would suggest that this application does meet the 4 tests and that we move approval subject to the retail component being limited to no more than 5% of the site.
Is there a seconder for Mr. Komarek's motion?
So I will second that motion.
Mr. Ross, thank you. All in favor? That is unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Armstrong.
Mr. Chair, before we move on to item 5, can I just sound check one person?
Sure.
Hi, Heather.
Hello, Heather Doust here.
Hi, Heather. Sorry, apologies. I tried to sound check this input earlier, but it wasn't showing up as like a telephone number or a name. But now I know which user is you. So that's great. I'm going to put you back on mute. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So I take it Heather was a recent addition to the speakers list? But what's her role? She's not the agent. Oh, it's not item 5. You just said, can it wait before I do item 5? Okay, see? Takes me a while, but then I understand things. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5, 137 Laurel Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. And I would put this one into the straightforward category. There's a urban forestry requested request for refusal with an alternative of imposing their conditions 1 and 2. And other than that, we have an opposition letter, which we have all read. But I think we can proceed on this without a presentation. Mr. Kazanji, are you online?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. 3 variances in your revised notice here. Are you okay with us to just jump in with any questions we may have without a presentation from you? It's pretty easy to understand what's going on here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Straightforward application.
Yep. So panel, any questions for Mr. I'm not sure. Yeah, revised plan.
Yeah, so the revised plans reflect the elimination of variance 3, which is the height variance.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I remember this now, yeah.
Which was one of the objections.
Which was the objection, which was the topic
yeah.
of the objection, and I agreed with that objection, so I'm glad to see that that's been removed.
May I add, we also contacted the person who's objecting, which is the neighbor behind the property, and we spoke to him. He tried to withdraw that objection, but he couldn't know. He didn't know how to, or he couldn't.
No, that's okay. We understand. We understand that his concern has been addressed, and I do like your revised plans. They look much more compatible with the neighborhood. So That's about all I've got to say.
Okay, is there anyone in the hearing room that came to speak about 137 Laurel Avenue? No? And no one online, Adam?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then let's move right into committee for a decision then.
I'd like to move a motion to approve the application. It's very straightforward. It meets the 4 tests.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for Mr.
I'll second with some friendly amendments.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move it as revised so that we understand it's the revised application we're approving and subject to forestry conditions 2 and 1.
Thank you.
You're happy with those amendments? Okay. So moved by Mr. Dalton, seconded by Mr. Komorik. All in favor? That is unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Kazanji. We now move to item number 6, which is 7 and 21 Richgrove Drive and 610 and 620 Martin Grove Road. The purpose of this application is to increase the number of residential visiting parking spaces located on the ground level. Again, I would put this in the straightforward category. We have ravine and natural features protection is okay, transportation services is okay, and there's only the one variance. So it's very easy to understand this item. Mr. Schuman, agent, are you online?
He was on the line. I would just ask Mr. Schuman to stop muting and unmuting themselves.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I am here. My name is Matthew Schuman, solicitor for the applicant, who is the registered owner.
Okay, Mr. Schuman, the committee has agreed that we find this application very straightforward, simple, easy to understand, no objections, etc. So we're going to suggest to you that we don't need a presentation, and would you be okay with answering any questions that the panel may have in lieu of a presentation?
Yes, sir. There is a presentation in your materials
yes,
with
we're
some
aware of that.
drawings.
We've read that.
In case you need to refer to it. But
Yep.
yes, I'm happy to answer any
we've read
questions.
and understood that. So are you okay to proceed on that basis then? We'll see if there are any questions for you, and if not, we'll proceed to a decision.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mr. Schuman. Any questions, panel, for Mr. Schuman? Mr. Ross?
Yeah, I mean, I note that there's also a parking study by an independent organization.
Yes, yep, yep.
So I think this clearly meets the 4 tests. And I don't believe.
Well, just before you make a motion, which I encourage greatly, are there any questions from my left side here? Okay, good. Oh, you have some comments? Okay, go ahead.
My only comment is we're used to seeing variances for reductions in parking. This is first one in a long time that we've seen for an increase in parking, and given that it's for visitor parking, I don't think anyone's going to object to that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, Mr. Ross, if you're ready for a motion.
Yeah, there are no conditions either from RNFP or transportation. So I believe it clearly meets the 4 tests. So I will move to approve the application without condition.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton? Thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Schuman.
Thank you, panel.
Okay. Moving on to item 7. 196, the Kingsway. We have a revised application. Construct a second-story addition above the existing garage and a 2-story cantilevered rear addition. A previous Committee of Adjustment decision approved variances relating to floor space index and side yard setback. There are 3 variances. We have a Metrolinx advisory. We have support from the neighbor to the south. And that's it. So again, I would put this in the straightforward category. Mr. Lopes or Lopez?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Bruno Lopez. I'm Excel Engineering and Associates, located at 1649 St. Clair Avenue West, representing the owner.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lopez. Again, like some of the previous ones, pretty simple, straightforward, no objections, no opposition. Are you okay with just proceeding with us asking you any questions we may have in lieu of a presentation from you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. So panel, questions, comments for Mr. Lopez?
Yes. One of both. Just wanted to note that there was an amendment to the purpose.
Yes.
And that it is a second-story cantilevered rear addition. So my only question around that is, I'm assuming that's why we don't have as much of a variance for the coverage that we're cantilevering. And I believe Forestry was looking for conditions 1 and 2. So that was.
Yes. I just have.
Yes,
Yes,
through
1 and 2,
Mr. Chair.
correct. That is correct.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, answering the question. Actually, this is a bit of a confusion here, and good that I have a few minutes to talk about it. Actually, this is just a second-story addition over the garage. The rear addition is actually under permit number 22-100-303. So there was a mistake from, I believe, some clerk service there. I don't know what happened, but we let it go just for the sake of time, and we know that we could bring to your attention today. This is a very simple, very straightforward application, and as you just mentioned, the next door neighbor is in agreement, and it is very simple. But there is a clerical mistake that actually, if you go to our drawings A0101, you clearly see that we have actually over that portion at the rear what was already permitted.
Yeah, in your site plan, it says 2-story rear addition under permit. So that's not what we're actually approving at this point.
Absolutely. It's under permit, which is a separate permit. So there was a bit of confusion, and we had somehow to prepare some drawings to clarify it, and good that we are having this discussion. Absolutely. Today, what we are requesting is just a small, tiny addition over the existing garage.
Okay, so why is it considered cantilevered?
It's just because at the rear of the garage, if you can see it, the garage is about 20
okay,
feet
so you're
and
slightly,
change, and
you're going slightly beyond the footprint of the garage.
absolutely, and we're gonna match it up to the rear of the existing building.
Clear as mud. Okay, so yeah, I just want to understand the purpose did need to be amended or didn't need to be amended. It doesn't really matter. We just wanted to make sure we got the right wording on it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone in the hearing room that came to speak about 196 the Kingsway? Nope. No one online, Adam?
No one on the line, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then let's go into committee then for a decision.
Okay, I'd like to move a motion to approve it. Again, very straightforward. It meets the 4 tests and subject to the 2 conditions in the forestry memo.
That captures your.
Yeah, that's fine. And we've got the amended purpose, and the amendment is correct. I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? That is unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.
Okay, items 8 and 9 have been deferred. Moving to item number 10, 12, 22nd Street. The purpose is to construct a new garden suite in the rear yard. There is 1 variance related to landscaping. We have Metrolinx advisory and a TTC advisory. No other agency comments, no opposition. Again, I would classify this as pretty straightforward. I think we can With your permission, Mirka Kolesha, agent.
I'm here. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, we find this pretty straightforward, easy to understand, no controversy around it at all. Would you be okay with us proceeding, asking you questions if we have any?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, good. We'll do that then. So panel, questions or comments for Mr. Kolesha?
I have a question. Actually, I forgot I had this question for staff, but I'll put it out either way. I'm a little confused about the TTC comments because they're referring to subway tunnels, and to my knowledge, there is no subway along the lakeshore. I don't know if the applicant has any, whether that relates to the streetcar line, but is the applicant or staff aware of any of that?
May I interject?
I was a little confused as well.
Okay.
We were confused as well.
Yeah, I'm assuming
Absolutely.
it's for the streetcar, but the streetcar doesn't do any tunnels through that area.
No.
If I may add something, what we proposed in the garden suite on helical piles. No foundation wall, no deep drilling, no nothing really. So we were absolutely flabbergasted when we got it, but I guess it's the procedure maybe.
Well, they're asking us to impose conditions, but if I don't understand their report, I don't feel comfortable imposing their conditions. So that's why I'm asking these questions.
I appreciate your comment. We don't understand them either.
Okay, thank you.
We probably shouldn't impose their conditions anyway, right? They're a separate corporate entity. So on grounds that we can't impose any conditions that they have, and B, that we don't understand what they want, I would suggest we ignore them.
Well, there still is the Metrolink today.
Good. Okay, so why don't we proceed to a decision then?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that basis, I'm comfortable moving a motion. I find the application meets the 4 tests, and I would like to move approval subject to forestry condition 2 only.
Thank you, Mr. Komorek. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Dalton, thank you very much. All in favor? That is approved unanimously.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Kolesha. Okay, moving on to item 11, which is 52 30th Street. Purpose is to construct a new triplex. There are 3 variances. Urban Forestry has requested conditions 1 and 2. And we do have an opposition letter from the immediate neighbor, number 50, who is also registered to speak, Louise Graham. So Hamia Aghai May Bodhi, apologies for the pronunciation. Are you with us to speak to this application?
Hamia was on the call. Oh, there it is. Hamia.
I'm still here. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, would you care to make a brief presentation? I think the only substantive issue with this is your opposition from the neighbor who we're going to be speaking to shortly, but maybe you could focus on, anticipating those issues and speaking to them.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I spoke with our neighbor. She expressed her concerns about the triplex. I totally understand what she's saying. At the same time, the triplex is not exactly what is our variance. The main variance for us is the setback. After speaking with her, I understand that her concern is about privacy as well. So looking back at that, although planners were very okay with the variances we had a very good conversation and back and forth with them prior to this, and we eliminated few variances before submitting to committee. We can, to since I'm anticipating that would help her a little as well. We are, if you are okay with that, we are okay to eliminate number 2 and item 2 and item 3, and we just keep item 1, the side setback, so which is toward our other neighbor, which is sixplex as well. If that's okay with you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the agent? Comments? Yep.
Just one question. I'm assuming there's no parking being provided?
Yes, no, there is no parking. The planners are insisting on no parking providing for multiplexes.
So the planners are asking you not to provide parking?
They rather not see parkings. They're like maximum of 1 parking, but at the same time, our neighbor asked us not to have any parking in the backyard as well.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand that because you do have a mutual right-of-way, which you're going to,
yes,
because it's a mutual right-of-way, you're going to have to maintain it anyway, whether you provide parking or not.
Absolutely. So yes, absolutely. At the same time, again, our neighbor insists on not having that at the same time because she feels more secure and comfortable not having cars going back to the back of the house at the same. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to understand the rationale for it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's mostly planners and neighbor, and we are trying very much to be respectful to our to the neighbor and to our neighborhood. At the same time, trying to follow the guideline planners giving us. We always have this conversation prior to even designing any building. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Louise Graham is a registered speaker. Ms. Graham, are you in the hearing room?
Good morning. Good morning. It's Louise Graham.
Oh, hi, Ms. Graham. Yeah, so
Oh, good.
you have
Okay.
up to 5 minutes if you need it. I'll just make a preliminary comment. The issue here is not triplex. A triplex, 4plexes are permitted everywhere in the city. So you know the issues are the 3 variances that have been requested here. They have?
I'm here. I can hear, but I can't.
Sorry.
The applicant is saying he's going to remove variants 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Yeah, so there's one variance. Minimum side yard setback for a triplex 1.2. Proposed triplex will be located 0.6 from the north side lot line. So that's the only issue that we are considering today. So just if you'll just keep that in mind in your presentation and proceed.
I will do my best.
Okay.
So I'm 50 13th Street. I am opposed to this triplex on such a small property. It is 110 by 24 feet wide. The homeowners in the past have spoken to me about the development 4 years ago, and it was supposed to be a residential home, which I agreed with at the time. The reason the mutual driveway was never discussed, it was never used because it's extremely small and it doesn't meet the standards or bylaws of a mutual driveway for the size of it anymore. So it has never been used as a mutual drive. It's quite small by, I think, more like a half a meter, too small to be legally a mutual driveway. My security and safety is a big issue. I feel threatened at this time in the world with COVID, levels of crime and frustration. Up to 18 people could live in this building if 2 people in each bedroom on a 24 by 110 deep lot. They could have 18 cars at the worst case scenario. They, did not talk to me till last night. I only got the letter 3 weeks ago and have been furiously trying to understand the plans. So I can't quite relate to the 1 and 2, the 2 and 3 thing changes at this moment because I really couldn't capture it all. But moving forward, the variances really were not minor, whether it's 1 and 2 or not. The general intent of the zoning and bylaws has not been met or maintained. The owner should be able to construct with the setbacks in regards to this. The north setback and rear overhang of the unsupported 3rd floor which is significantly higher than the bylaw allows. The fact that they cannot construct a triplex within the bylaw is a clear indication that the property is too small to support such a significant change and increase in the building area. The site is fully utilized by the current building footprint, 24 feet by 110 feet. The deviation from the intent of the zoning and bylaws set a new and concerning precedent in the neighborhood. A 24-foot lot is meant for a single-family home, not 3 homes. Apartment buildings and triplexes need significant larger frontage lots. In addition to these important points, the following serious concerns were not addressed in any of the information. The garbage situation discussed last night, but not in enough time. It hasn't really represented itself as responsible. I realize some of these aren't committee things, but I feel it's important to state my claim. Cutting grass regularly, maintaining the property, tenants be made aware of the responsibilities and respect the property. I could have up to 6 people going back and forth in this small mutual driveway to get to their 3rd suite on the top. And that is a security factor. I wanted to know what and where will the fire exits be. I want security lighting there, not directed at my house, of course. The south side, I don't know if this is part of it, of the upper 2 decks must have walls to ensure privacy in my backyard. Grading between a house must be channeled properly. We did agree on he would put a fence to define the property at the back. I was suggesting build a duplex where you might encourage people and students that would be more responsible. As I said, up to 18 people could live in this triplex. The property, again, is 24 by 110 feet. I get concerned that what's the difference when I look up bylaws of the triplex going into a rooming house, how it's determined and then licensed in this new evolution of change. I want to feel safe, and my neighbors should be as responsible as I am. I live in a lovely neighborhood, and it should be respected. This has been evident a number of times, leaving me in a very compromised position. Parking for family and friends will be compromised with a possibility of 18 more cars on the street if maximum number of tenants move in with the cars. And I've forgotten what he said to me last night, but when will the project begin and hope to be completed? I don't know that at the moment, I forgot. But that's my presentation. It's personal, but this is a personal situation. I've lived here 27 years, and I have no problem with the changing world of needing housing. However, I'm very concerned that a lot 24 feet wide by 110 feet deep would actually accommodate a triplex. I mean, it'd be squishy.
Okay, thank you very much. Adam, there are no one else online to speak to this?
No one else online, but we do have someone in the chambers.
You will.
Someone addition.
Oh, there is someone in the room? Okay, well, okay. Well, come on up.
Hi.
Morning.
I'm Paula Ackfield.
Could you pull your microphone head down at your
Oh,
your
sorry.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Paula Ackfield. I own 53 13th Street across the road. And basically this house is too small. Right now there is a lawn, but one car parks on it anyways. There are trees that are, in the back that really, like we shouldn't be deforesting that city. And it's basically not the right size for any large things like Louise said. So that's basically me. And about on-street parking, well, right now it's hell to begin with. So, and you have to pay for it if you do have to. And so if they don't provide any parking, then forget it.
Okay, thank you. Could you just stay put for just a second? Are there any questions or comments for the lady? Okay, ma'am. If you could just sit down for a moment. And I didn't ask the panel if they had any questions for Ms. Graham. Any questions or comments for her? Yes, Mr. Kimura.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused about the presentation because on the one hand, the presenter stated that the driveway is too narrow to be used for parking, but then also was concerned that the development's going to generate parking. So I'm not sure what is it that you would want. Like,
No, I'm not asking to generate parking at all. When we originally took the plan as a residential home, one
no, but you
parking pad
just
was
told, but you
allotted.
just told us that the driveway is too narrow for a
It
car.
was in the front. Pardon me?
You just told us that the driveway is too narrow for a car to go up and down.
It is, and it's never been used for years and years and years. What was accepted was a small parking pad in the front because the rear was not accessible.
Okay. And you did have some discussions, you say, with the applicant last night?
Just last night they arrived, which, I mean, they've been very, very cordial in the 3-4 years ago when we talked.
That's good. Thank you. You've answered my questions.
Okay, and I'll just make a comment to both speakers. We're only looking at one issue here, and that is, this relates to both of your comments about the lot's too small for a triplex. The only issue we're looking at is the north side lot line. They want 0.6, whereas the bylaw requires 1.2. And I would just point out that the existing north side lot line, I believe, subject to confirmation from the agent, is about 0.6. So I'll just make that comment that the fit relates to this single variance, and that variance, I believe, or that side yard already exists. Anyway, can we call on the agent to rebut the two speakers?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Again, I totally understand what our neighbors are saying. And there are parts that is related to the construction site, which definitely will be addressed, and otherwise there would not be any construction. City won't allow all the security, everything, and definitely there won't be any light pointing at neighbors. It's not even allowed by law. So all those issues, I understand they are valid, but they're not for this, for what we came to the committee. Would definitely consider those. We definitely will follow all the rules. But for this matter, again, the site setback, I understand 24 or 110 is a small lot. At the same time, we have projects in a smaller than that for like even 4 or 5 units in the city of Toronto and everywhere else. That's where the city is going in general. And it's the beginning of the change, and I totally understand that's a huge change for everyone looking at it from outside. But if they have any other question or anything, I will be happy to answer and address.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions or comments for the agent?
Yeah, just one question. Just wanted to confirm that your current north side yard setback is what you're proposing. Is that correct?
So our current setback, if I'm not wrong, is even smaller. And prior to this, we got approval for a detached house, which was exactly at 600. So that's why planners were okay with that as well. Like,
so you're improving the current setback situation.
Yeah. But give me 1 second to just. I just don't want to say something that might not be exact. If you just give me 1 second, I am just looking at survey. So,
sure.
Yes, we are improving. So,
Okay, thank you. And there was a 2021 committee decision to construct a dwelling. I'm assuming that was never done.
Yes, no, it was never done due to COVID and everything. It got paused, and then things changed. It was not done. And if you look at that, the same setback was approved, and at the same time, the height of the building has not changed.
Okay.
Just a portion of the front. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then let's go into committee for a decision.
I'm ready to go if no one else has any. Or is there any discussion or no? Okay, so I believe the applicant is withdrawing 2 of the variances. So we're now addressing only 1 variance. And as was mentioned in the discussion, that variance represents an improvement over the existing situation. The elimination of the other 2 variances, I believe, does address some of the concerns expressed by the neighbors. So I welcome that change. And otherwise, I believe this meets the 4 tests and is appropriate development given the context that the city is trying to get more units for housing. So therefore, I'd like to move approval subject to forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. Kamork. Is there a seconder for Mr. Kamork? Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That is unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and
Thank you.
members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the neighbors as well. I'd now like to call on a short recess. You like to go with times that end in 0 and 5, right? Let's go 10:55.
Okay, sounds good. So for everyone on the line and in chambers, the 9:30 a.m. session will resume at 10:55 with item 12.
Right, we'll only have 5 items to go after that.
Well, I tried to say that. So I should have said as revised. You got it.
so good. Eh?
Not enough water. I could have done this. Even though tomorrow I might be opposing. No, Super bungalow? It's a bungalow. Well, we've gone through so many it doesn't work. So do you want a copy of the book in email? Or, yeah, I mean, this is yeah. Okay, thanks. You're welcome. My parents are unfortunately, at some point, you have to be able to do banking unless you have everything on the computer and email. Well, I'm putting email, like tablet remembered like thing, and then I try to, then it You can go underneath that existing wall ASHBOURNE, and you can hit that, and it can be set to your phone, for example.
It's not labeled by other email, which I don't remember the password for either.
It's photography of choice. Like, I don't want to receive the setting, and I just type in my phone number. Yeah. Well, at least you go on Slate, almost a good job.
Well, yeah.
Good luck.
Thanks.
No worries.
Mr. Chair, do we want to continue with item 12? 12. Okay, sounds good.
Thank you all for indulging us. Next item on the agenda is number 12, 699 Royal York Road. We have a planning condition. We have 7 letters of opposition. We have 3 registered speakers. The purpose of the application is to construct a garden suite in the rear yard. We have 3 variances, all related to 45-degree angular plane penetration. So, the agent is Mr. Schultz.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, the agent will actually be Jerzy Rabianski.
Okay.
With a last-minute change.
Okay. Is the agent in the hearing room or? No, online? Online, okay.
Call in user with the phone number 416.
Good morning.
Hi, is this Jerzy?
Speaking.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jerzy. Sorry, just a point of order going forward. If you can just register before the hearing, it would help eliminate a lot of confusion. But we have you on the line now.
Okay, sir. Could you...
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Oh.
Yeah, hi. Could you use your name and address?
Okay. So good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jerzy Rabianski of Distill Design Inc. at 1750 the Queensway, Toronto, Ontario. I will be representing the owners of 699 Royal York Road.
Okay. And could you make a brief presentation focusing on the letters of opposition for now?
Okay, so we are proposing a 2-story garden suite in the rear yard. My clients are planning to be living in the garden suite as it has become difficult to afford living in my client's preferred area. With 2 young children, this has become a financially feasible option in order to stay within their desired school district. We worked with planning staff to minimize the impact on all adjacent properties. We have made many compromises to get approval of planning staff, which has resulted in a much higher construction cost. Complying with the angular planes would not make it possible to have bedrooms on the 2nd floor. The roof penetration of the angular plane is very minimal, with just over 1 foot in the rear yard, which is the east elevation, and just over 2 feet on the north and south elevation. Moving the roof line by this small amount would not change the impact on any of the neighbors.
Okay.
The difference in massing.
Sorry? Could you repeat that?
Sorry, the difference in massing would not be noticeable in comparison if we took a structure that is compliant and the structure that we are proposing.
Okay, thank you. Panel, before we hear from the registered speakers, any questions or comments for the agent?
Couple of questions, if
Yep,
I may.
couple of questions. Mr. Kamork, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question is, what's the square footage of the garden suite compared to the fourplex? I'm assuming you don't have, since you don't have a variance for that, you are less square footage than the main house?
Yes, we do comply with that bylaw.
And you originally, in your plans, you had finished basement. Are you now have no finished basement in the garden suite?
There is a finished basement in the garden suite.
So is that basement square footage fall into the calculations, or it does not?
I believe it does.
It does. So even including that basement, you're still less than the main house?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, panel? Okay, so then let's call on our registered speakers. Are any of them in the hearing room?
There are several of them here in the chambers. Maybe we'll go with Andrew Schultz, who is listed as the agent, but is not the agent, but is here to speak. Is here to speak as a neighbor.
Is there a lucky number program here?
Yeah, right. Okay, so Mr. Schultz is in the room? Yep.
All righty. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
So my name is Andrew Schultz. My parents are Lala and Peter Schultz, who are at 4 Oakfield Drive, which borders the east side of the proposed construction project at 699 Royal York Road. I'd like to say the variance is neither minor in size nor impact. When you look at the entity of the project, it's obnoxious. Needless to say, it's insufficient parking proposed for the units, which would lead to overflow onto neighborhood streets which are not equipped to deal with overflow traffic. I feel privacy will be impacted by the east-facing windows on the garden suite facing my parents' property. Needless to say, there's none on the north for some reason. Shadow being cast onto my parents' property, which will disrupt the garden that they have taken great pride over 45 years to work on. It's immaculate. It will be destroyed by the shading happening with the situation. This development is not appropriate and does not respect the fit and the character of the neighborhood. If you walk around any of the neighborhood there, it would just stick out like a sore thumb. The city has granted new freedoms to build garden suites, multiplexes, with what seems to be little forethought into the negative repercussions that can happen. This particular situation has pitted neighbors against each other and actively divided a very once peaceful neighborhood. We used to have garden parties and street parties, and now it's creating a war zone, which is not healthy. You're going to divide the whole neighborhood. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can build absolute to the maximum that the city and property will allow does not mean you should. You cannot max everything, all right? In response to the freedom granted by the city to allow new high-density developments, I feel there is a responsibility to communicate and compromise with neighbors in order to maintain positive relationships and a sense of community, which is not happening here. Respect, I feel like there's been zero respect in the proceedings that have happened here. And I feel like this sets a very dangerous precedent for what could go on and a lack of consideration for those in the neighborhood and those with vested interest. I request a compromise by the property owner to change the plan to one level garden suite. This responds to the city's need for housing without as much impact on neighbors and environment. As currently, there is already a fourplex on plan for the property, which is, if you look at the size of the property, is very tight. Need to say an additionally garden suite with this does not answer all the questions, but would provide a better starting point for further discussion and meaningful development in our great city. I look forward to sharing the property I grew up on with the next generation, with my new nephew, with my future children, family, and hopefully a good relationship with the neighbor who decides to build next to us. But I'd like to harbor a good relationship where we can get along together. I would like to enjoy the trees, the plants, and teach the importance and respect for nature to my children. And yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schultz. Any comments or questions for Mr. Schultz? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, one question. Is your concern the angular plane?
Yes. I think the shadowing on the pre-existing property, make it an angle. But I think either way, I think having a fourplex and then adding an additional 3-story or 2-story with basement garden suite on this size property, you can have 20 people on a property that for the last 40 years has had 4 people. This neighborhood is not equipped to deal with that kind of, we're living on a dead-end street with already problems. When we had an explosion due to a propane tank going off down the street, it was mayhem. The fire department could not get down the street because of people parking on the side. They're literally carrying fire hoses from the Royal York Road. It's not a safe situation to have people parking on the side streets there. And generally speaking, yes, I disagree and do not agree with the change, the variance that they are proposing. It is not a minor variance. If you look at the bigger picture of this entire site, they're parceling off this one little entity, but as a whole, it's a catastrophe. And I would ask that you guys look at it as a whole and use common sense and use reason to see how do you make this a living situation, to get along with neighbors, to be friendly, to not have arguments and fights over something that's needless. Needless to say, 20 people are going to be living there. If you have the entire neighbor pitted against them, it's not going to be a good neighborhood. And we had a great neighborhood for many, many years. I've lived there for, 36 years. And
okay, I think you've answered the question.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers in the hearing room?
I think all of the remaining speakers are in the hearing room.
Everybody.
Yeah, so just on your list, the neighbor at 697 Royal York Road.
Okay, that'd be Christopher Jasinski.
Yeah, Christopher, we emailed him.
He should be online, I think.
He's not on the line. So we sent the email yesterday, and we also sent 2 follow-up emails this morning just with the information, but we don't see them on the line.
So now there's no one in the hearing room to speak to?
No, we still have John Warwick, Sharon Hagen-Babick, and we have at least 2 others. One more.
Okay, so we'll call Mr. Warwick first. Oh, sir, you are in the hearing room. I asked if anyone was in the hearing room. That's you. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Chair, panel, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, your address, please?
My address is number 6 Oakfield Drive.
Oh, you're Mr. Warwick, okay.
Yeah. I'm immediately next door to the Schultz family.
Yes, okay.
And I can see the site of the applicant's property. When all this started, we were notified just about the 28th of March, and no prior discussion with the applicant for what was going to happen to the site. The site originally is a single-family dwelling, and like all the sites around there. Before coming forward to make a statement, I have studied this City of Toronto publication on what your committee has to review in making a decision. So for a minor variance, you're looking at the traffic and parking. Parking is an issue. Privacy and shadow impacts on surrounding properties. Appropriate change for the neighborhood. That it meets the general intent of the zoning bylaw and meets the general intent of the official plan. I've submitted a written challenge to the application, and I don't believe that this project is minor at all. The issue is where the garden suite is at the back of the site, and the future fourplex plan for a building on the foundation of the original house, which is being demolished or will be demolished. They seem to have started work already. So it's not minor at all. So my wife and I hereby object to this requested variances to the zoning bylaw on this application. These variances are not minor in nature. The building is not a garden suite. It's a full-size single-family dwelling. I've looked at the drawings very carefully, and that's what it is. It's just stuck at the back of the site, and the site is about 40 foot wide by 125 feet long, very slim. So a larger building in front of the gardens, proposed garden suite, is not going to allow for any parking. We're going up from to 5 family dwellings, fourplex plus the garden suite, if that's what happens, and it'll be a very crowded site, just as Mr. Schultz has talked about. So a garden suite has technically been known as in the past as a single-story dwelling, possibly with a basement, not higher than a single level. Now, recent changes seem to be allowing a much bigger building and a dwelling, in fact. So this would take us to a total of 5 dwellings with a fourplex. And where are these people going to put their private vehicles? Not room on this site. And as has been explained, our street is a very private street, but has no room for parking from other areas. So my wife and I, we do object to the height of the 3-story fourplex building that's shown on the drawings.
If I may interrupt, the fourplex is not before us today,
okay.
just the garden suite.
I'm sorry, but...
Okay, I don't know where the fourplex is in the approval process.
Well, the drawing is obvious.
It presumably didn't need any variances, and none are being requested here. This is just the garden suite.
Yes, well...
And it's just about angular plane.
Well, I think the angular plane is to be denied. That's a trivial thing. But it should be denied.
And you're speaking sort of from a general perspective or personal? Like, I'm just wondering, you're 2 lots removed from this building?
Personal, I said, we can see the lot.
You can see it?
Very clearly.
But unlike number 4 Oakfield, it wouldn't have any shadowing impact on your property?
No, I wouldn't. It's just the use of the site, or proposed use of the site is not in keeping with the neighborhood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a moment, please. Any questions or comments for Mr. Warwick? Okay.
I had a question. Did
Yeah,
you,
go ahead.
would you, the previous speaker had proposed a one-story. Would you be acceptable with a one-story garden suite as well, or you don't think
Sorry,
it?
I can't.
Would a one-story garden suite be acceptable to you as well?
A one-story garden suite would be acceptable.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Warwick. If you could take your seat for a moment.
Just before we go to the next speaker, Mr. Schultz, that's probably a question we should have asked you for clarification on. Would a one-story solve your issues?
Well,
One-story garden suite.
Yes.
I think it's a move towards it. There's a lot of other underlying issues, but I think it's a move that we can communicate between the builder and us and the committee and find an amicable outcome. But yes, that would make it less of a problem.
Thank you.
But
Thank
the
you.
agent will tell us again that the intention of this building is for a family. So anyway, he can speak to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Would you want to ask? Okay, you'll ask it later. It's a numbered company that owns it. Do we have any other speakers in this room right now? Yes, ma'am. Could you please approach the...
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we have Sharon Hagen-Babick, and we also have, I believe, a couple more speakers for this item in chambers.
Okay, so...
Or one more. Sharon Babick.
Sharon's,
plus one.
she's got her name typed in here, so we'll call on her first.
Yep, sounds good.
And there's no one online?
No one on the line. Everyone here to speak is in person.
Perfect.
Hello, members of the committee. My husband and I have lived at 5 Oakfield Drive for over 20 years. I'm here because although my concerns over parking, drainage, flooding, and green space were sent in, you have told me that these are of no concern to you and it is up to the building codes or inspector. Neither the neighbors or ourselves were given very much time to comprehend and express our concerns over this building project. I did try and contact an inspector via 311, but was given 2 numbers, none of which were valid, so I can really not blame the lack of response from the inspector, who is Dylan Correa.
I think they're busy with the vacant home tax issue right now.
Sorry?
I think that 311 is busy with the vacant home tax fiasco, as it's been called.
Well, maybe. I did have some responses from some people. You are here to decide if the owner should be allowed to extend a roof because he does not want slanted walls. I'm here to say the building should be referred to as a single-family unit with a possible basement rental, not a garden suite. The government states that garden suites are generally used as rental units. The fourplex is going to have 4 floors, each with 3 bedrooms. The garden house has 4 bedrooms and 4 baths. The owner has a wife and 2 small children, so the basement can become a rental unit also. So we may end up with an additional 12 to 15 people on a property that only has 2 parking spots. The owner has also said that he will be residing in the garden house because he wants the capital gains tax, but it's obviously not for a long-term plan. As I am sure that you are aware, this property is in between 2 high schools and a middle school, not to mention 2 other junior schools in the area. Traveling via car is super busy. Traveling via the TTC, which is my route, is a nightmare because of the density of the amount of people that require it. This area is already heavily saturated and is going to get worse with the amount of condos being built on the Queensway. The schools in the area have already said they cannot accept any new students. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to make a buck, but at the expense of how many people? And why is this owner allowed to have so many units on a property that is only 40 feet wide and 125 feet deep? None of these units are going to be affordable. So they're not going to help people that need it. Not much of the blueprints seem to be addressing the much needed green space, which is required to slow our climate change. I would like to know why this property owner has more rights with the fourplex and a two-story to build over a family that has been here for 45 years. They have raised their family, created a backyard oasis, they grow their own vegetables, which they in turn then donate to they donate the excess to the local food bank and are dedicated community members. Why should this property owner have more say than them? Why should the work that they have put into their property for their children and their grandchildren be canceled because the owner has purchased the lot, wants to make more money? Their garden is a source of fresh food for the people in need, so in allowing this garden house to be built at all, it will literally affect a lot of people who depend on them. Is the new owner going to provide a plot for people to grow veggies? Are they planning on being active community members? Again, I realize this is really about the variations of the slope of the roof, but it's really about much more than that. These are the type of people and property owners we need. We are a close-knit community that will ask to keep an eye on our neighbors' property if they have to go away. We are there to support each other and our neighbors. I'm very unsure of what the new owners will add to the community. I suspect it will bring nothing to the table. And for that, I strongly object to this garden building in general. Build your fourplex. It'll be an eyesore. It doesn't fit in with the neighborhood, but it will be that one building per property. Even Bloor and Royal York has rules. Why is this owner exempt from the laws that everybody else has to follow? Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions for Ms. Hagen-Babak?
So given that the variances have to do with the angular plane, and we've talked about one-story versus two-story, there is no height variance requested here. Well, if there was one floor above ground as opposed to two, would that solve the angular plane issue? Of course.
It would solve the angular plane for you, but it wouldn't for me because our street has a tendency to flood. It took me 8 years to get them to fix the culverts. So if this person has no green space, then where is all this water going to go to? It'll end up going into our street, along with the fact that he's going to have possibly, there's only 2 parking spots, and they're all going to end up on my street. So what's going to happen when the snow plows hit and we only have one route? It's going to be a serious problem for the people that live on Oakfield Drive.
But all we can do is deal with, the city will require a drainage plan. So we
right,
can't do
and this is why I tried to contact.
The only thing we can do are look at the variances in front of us.
And I realize that, but what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to get a hold of the building inspector to find out if they have dealt with issues like drainage and flooding and et cetera, but I has been given such little notice about this project in general that I have not been able to get the answers I need to make an informed decision. So in regards to your question of a one-story, if I can get the answers that I need from the building inspector about who has been informed or what information they have gathered, then I will have a better informed decision to decide whether this is going to be a positive, negative, or neutral impact on the environment regards to the first floor or no floor. Does that answer your question, sir?
Well, the normal process on drainage, for example, is that when they seek a building permit, a drainage plan has to be submitted as part of that.
But this is all information we didn't have time to collect, and it's all information that we were never given. So I honestly think that this is being pushed through so quickly that we're not being informed this is a neighborhood. We have 2 high schools. There are hundreds of students that are traveling between them. I don't know how this guy's going to manage it, how he's going to manage to do the building without impacting, because you can't park on Royal York. There's a bike lane there. There's buses right in front of his house. How is that? There's no information that he has provided to, and I know this is the angular plane, but if you're going to throw a whack of people onto a property that's not really big enough for it, in between an area that's already densely populated, and more so now because of all the condos, how am I take the TCC, so it's kind of if I was given more informed information and had more time to consider it, then I would be able to make a decision based on that, and I would give you clearer answers. But I don't have the answers because they were never provided to me. And that is my main complaint.
But I just want you to understand what our jurisdiction is.
I know, you're looking at the roof. I know, you're looking at the roof, but the thing is, okay, but again, if it's a two-story roof and it's angled, this person wants the extra space because he doesn't want crooked walls. I don't think that's fair. It's a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom unit. He has his wife and him and 2 children.
I think you've answered the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for listening to me.
Not a problem. So we have one more speaker, I understand, who isn't. Yes, ma'am. If you can make your way up, and while you do, I'm just going to ask Adam for the status of Mr. Jasinski. Registered, not here.
Mr. Jasinski still is not on the call.
Okay. So unless I hear otherwise, we'll treat this as the last speaker.
Yes, I will note that from the information that we've been given, this speaker, Lala Schultz, also lives at 4 Oakfield, same as Andrew Schultz. So they have different addresses. Okay, sorry, they have different addresses. It was the same on the card.
Okay, ma'am, could you give us your name and address, please?
I'm Lala Schultz, and I live at Oakfield Drive, and you heard we've lived there for 45 years.
What's your address?
4 Oakfield Drive.
Yeah, I think.
So
It's the same as Andrew Schultz.
no, he lives with his
Madam
girlfriend.
Deputy Secretary Treasurer,
But I'm
we've heard
just
from Mr. Schultz from the same address.
He actually has a different address.
Oh.
52 Mendota. So
he's gone from an agent to a speaker at a different.
that was my mistake. I put him down as an agent accidentally.
Okay, so I am looking at a legitimate speaker.
But did he not represent the same people that are about to speak?
Because Mendota is not in this neighborhood. So you spoke on behalf of 4 Oakfield, correct? No. So where is Mendota?
It's in the neighborhood. It's like a 3-minute walk away.
Okay, you didn't give us that as your address when you spoke.
You didn't ask for the address.
The chair asks everyone for their name.
Name and address.
You can look at that situation. I gave it to your lovely lady over there.
Okay, what is your address?
52 Mendota. But I consider that my family home.
He's here part-time, but, okay. Can I progress?
So just to clarify, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, is Mrs. Schultz eligible to speak to this item?
It's up to the committee. We thought we already had a representative for 4.
Okay, panel, have we heard enough about 4 Oakdale?
I thought Mr. Schultz was speaking on behalf of his parents.
That's what he was referring to constantly in his presentation.
Yeah, family home and.
So
Sorry,
I
can
think
you
we
clar-
should listen to the next speaker.
Is she the mother of? Are you?
I am the part owner. My husband and I own 4 Oakfield Drive.
And you're related to Mr.
Yes,
Schultz?
he's my son.
Okay, we value transparency here, and this has been a murky mire, but anyway, please proceed.
Okay, so I live at 4 Oakfield Drive. I just drew a picture. So this is
You
orange.
can't introduce anything at this
Okay.
point, I'm sorry.
Alrighty, so we have decided to focus on 3 variances that we have concerns. All 3 variances impact our lives a lot. The proposed auxiliary building containing the garden suite penetrates this angular plane projected from the required backyard setback as well as the other 2. It will allow the walls to be higher in certain areas, restricting sunlight into our garden. You can see from the pictures, we do put a lot of effort into our gardening. There was time that we took green space seriously. Presently, healthy living is a privilege, not a requirement. Now we disregard its benefits. Building a garden suite that is 5 meters, which is short, just a little short of 20 feet, almost or probably as high as my house, and higher than most of the buildings around it, and has a square footage of 219 square feet, or almost 60 square meters. I'm a little confused because everywhere I look for measurements, it's either in feet or meters, and trying to read the blueprints are impossible. This is not a minor request. In simpler terms, it is massive. It takes away our privacy, especially since they have 3 windows, one being a bedroom window overlooking our backyard. The variance may allow very little green space around and between the buildings. And I've got, I guess you probably know, like the garden suite summary rules and regulations. Apparently, it cannot exceed 20% of the lot area. And if your lot is more than 6 meters, 50% of the rear yard area should be covered by soft landscaping. We have bylaws for reasons, and that is to try and keep in character with the backyard, like with the neighborhood. Like everybody else said, there could be 20 people living in this space, so the appropriate change for it is not an appropriate change for the neighborhood. Now, it seems if you follow the rules, you can build almost anything, but you can't encroach side setbacks, rear setbacks, or setbacks from the house to the garden suite. Nor can you encroach the 4-meter high, 45-degree slope that they insist on. So what the contractor is trying to do is encroach on all regulations allowable on the garden suite to make it oversized. It sets a dangerous precedent for other people building garden suites. So after the massive garden suite is built, will they ask for a variance on the fourplex? I know you don't have a say, but it's a question. The complex will impact our lives unbelievably. The city should be a guide and an example and give opportunity for wholesome living. The city councilors say they care, but do they? Is this a benevolent move or a money-making scheme that creates havoc and then escape? These variances are not minor in nature. In conclusion, I must say, the stress of this impact has impacted my well-being and my mental health. And Peter and I, Schultz, object to the requested variance to the zoning bylaw on this application. Sorry.
Okay, panel, any questions or comments for Mrs. Schultz? None?
Just a brief comment. I mean, I believe the applicant or the presenter was saying something about side yard setbacks. There are no side yard setback variances for this on this application.
There are 3 variances as far as I know.
Correct, and none of them have to do with side yard setbacks.
Okay, I didn't bring the form, but what are the 3 variances then?
It's the angular plane.
I understand that, but they said on either side, north side, south side, and the west side.
Yeah, but it's not, the side yard is from the building to the lot line. That's not being required. It complies with that. It doesn't comply on 4 counts with the 45-degree angular plane limit. Part of the building on all 4, fronting the main house, fronting the backyard, and fronting both sides, projects, and I think the agent said a very little bit beyond the 45-degree. angular
Well,
plane.
I mean,
That's what's before us. 45-degree angular plane on all 4 roof sections. I know these things tend to get a little technical, but
so how come on the application, does anybody have it? It states that there were 3 different variances.
yes.
The application's on the board.
Yeah, I can't read that.
Well,
That makes 2 of us.
I can't read that
I can only
either.
read it because it's on my computer, and I can assure you that all 3 are for angular planes.
So which means what? That it doesn't impact anything that I said?
No, it does impact. We're just saying that I'm just correcting what you said, that they are not requesting variances for side yard setbacks.
So what am I requesting?
I think that's our
Let me try
question.
this again. The bylaw says, basically in simple terms, the bylaw says the roof can only be 45-degree at a 45-degree angle. Okay?
Yeah.
He's building it less than that, 44, 43, 42, I don't know exactly, he'll tell us. But that's the issue.
But he also, the contractor, whoever is representing, said if they don't allow that, they can't build the second story. He said that. I have talked to different people that have been building, and they said because of the angle and whatever, it makes a difference
Okay,
as to
Mr.
the
Chair,
height
these are
that you
questions
can
that
go.
applicant can address. We can't keep doing the back and forth.
Yeah, okay.
Before we go back to the applicant though, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, everything will become clear.
there is an issue that I'd like to raise. The applicant paid the incorrect fee. If you look at the plans that they originally submitted, they labeled this as a dwelling. And if you look at the revised plans, it's now labeled as a fourplex. And there's a different fee, so they do owe the city money for paying the incorrect fee. Should the committee choose to approve the application, we would ask that you impose a condition to pay the balance of the fee that is owed.
Do we need to specify the balance owing or
I
just
can
leave
tell
it?
you what it is now, and we could include it in
Okay.
the condition. It's $1,234.11.
1334.11?
1234.11.
1234.11. Okay, that's easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is Ms.
Can I
Mrs.
make another comment?
Sorry.
No,
your
we've had enough
time is
comments.
up.
Thanks. We can deal with the issues, the
We're
evidence
now
that has
calling
been
back
given to
the
us.
applicant, Jerry Rabiansky. Or Jersey, sorry.
Okay, so there are no more registered speakers.
Okay.
Is this the agent? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal, sir.
Okay. Okay. I know that there's been many different concerns from the neighboring, property owners. I will say that the property owners to the south and to the north, which are the most impacted, have no objections to this proposal. And one item that I do want to talk about is the shadowing, which was one of the concerns of the different neighbors. So, as I said in my opening remarks, the amount of shadowing that would be decreased by complying is very minor. We're talking a foot difference, so just over 12 inches in terms of the roof line would have to be set back in the rear to comply. And on the left and the right, we're talking 24 inches, just over 24 inches. Regardless if this application gets denied or approved, there will be a second story built on the garden suite, which will comply with the zoning bylaw. Also, we have gone through many different, we've explored many different options in terms of, how to best organize the bedrooms and living spaces. And basically, if we do have to comply with the angular planes, we are exploring the option of moving the bedrooms to the first floor. So that would make the living room, kitchen, and the family room on the second level, which most likely the neighbors, would not, be, I guess, happy about that. And also this would negatively impact the functionality of the garden suite, having, the living space and kitchen and everything on the second floor. So it's, we believe that, these are minor variances and that we do meet the 4 tests in terms of the angular planes, as they are very minor in nature. We do have the most impacted neighbors on the north and the south with no objections. They have, we don't have it in writing, but we have had conversations with them, and they had no concerns, and none of them were any of the speakers before us today.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for the?
Yeah, I do have a question. You said that regardless of whether this is approved or not, a second story is going to be built. And why are you asking for the variance?
Yes. The variances only have to deal with angular planes. So if we if we set back the roof in the rear by 12 inches, that variance now is completely gone. If we move the roof line on the on the south and the west by 24 inches, we comply with the angular planes for those 2 variances. And the same thing between the house. There's another, that would be the 3rd variance, which is the angular plane between the main structure and the garden suite. So essentially, if we move this roof just slightly, from both south and north, and also from the east and west, this will not impact, the second floor. The only impact that it will, have is us having to move the living space and the, kitchen and family room to the second floor, as if we comply with the angular planes, it will not be possible to have bedrooms on the second floor.
So really, you're saying our approval today would be obviously your desire. That's what you've applied for. But you're saying you could build a 2-story garden suite with no variances if you had to.
Yes, and it would be very similar. There's not going to be much if you're looking from any of the rear yards. It would essentially be the same massing. From the naked eye, you would not notice the difference between what we are proposing and a structure that would comply with all of the zoning bylaws.
Okay, Mr. Komorik, you had a question?
Yeah, this is more of a.
Okay, so there's 3 variances for angular planes. One deals with the angular planes towards the main house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that is which number is that?
I think it's number 1.
Number 1, yeah. So that's really of no concern to the neighbors, because that's really impact on your own dwelling. But
that's correct.
Before I go there, I want to back this up a little bit, because I think maybe I'll ask the question before I make my comment. In your presentation, you stated that there's a family that's purchased this property. They're going to live in the garden suite, and I'm assuming rent out the 4-plex. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you explain why the applicant is a numbered company?
That's not, I guess this is more in terms of, what they were, why that reasoning is, but that's more towards what they were advised to do from legal counsel and when purchasing the property.
So it has been purchased by a corporation as opposed to by an individual?
Yes.
Okay. Is that?
I think there are just many. I think there's just some legal things that the council advised them of, and they decided that it would be best to have it in a corporate name versus a personal name, because there will be a fourplex on site, but I'm not sure the exact details around that. I know that their council
No,
did
that's
advise
okay.
them that
And quite frankly, it's not germane to our decision making. But I just, there just seems to be, I'm just trying to cut through some of the gamesmanship on both sides of this application. And that's really the nature of that question, but thank you. So essentially, it's variance 2 and variance 3 that pertain to the neighbors, not variance 1.
yes.
Okay. And
And I will say that the most objection that we have been getting is for the rear yard angular plane penetration. The north and south, which is number 2, I believe, really impacts the neighbors to the north and south.
no, understood. And,
So-
and that's really my next question, because the neighbor to the immediate south was listed as a speaker, but unfortunately he wasn't able to stay. So was he online to express support, as far as you know?
From what I understand, he is in support of the proposal.
But I just, if he's in support, I'm just wondering why he was listed as a speaker but didn't provide any written comments. But that's okay. I'm just trying to.
It was sort of last minute. There was, yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to cut through some of the fog that I see here. Okay.
So I do have a question for the agent. When you first started the presentation, before we heard any speakers and so on, you had indicated that the owner couldn't, quote, afford to live in the multiplex, and that's why they were doing it. So I'm having trouble meshing that with the numbered company comments that we now hear.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
When you started your presentation, before we even heard any speakers, you indicated that the garden suite would be, the owner would take because they couldn't afford the other part of the property that they also owned, and that is the multiplex or the fourplex. So I'm having trouble understanding how that meshes with the fact that the owner is a numbered company.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure whether the ownership is germane to the variances. We're getting a bit.
We're getting a bit far afield.
But just to comment, the agent spoke. There's only one opportunity to speak. It won't be heard from again. But the agent, in his rebuttal, stated that the 2 neighboring owners were in support. But we do have a letter in opposition from 697 Royal York Road, and that's the person who wasn't able to connect today.
Yeah. So can you explain that?
From what I was told, a conversation was had with the the neighbor to the south, and he was in support from the last thing that I was told. So that's what I'm echoing to the committee.
So did you not review the information on the AIC?
I did see it, but there was conflicting. He did change his mind. So at first he was against it, but then after the property owner spoke to him, I was told that he did change his mind and he was in support of the application.
Okay, but you can't. But you can't present any evidence to that effect.
No.
So
no, I cannot.
So all we have before us, essentially, is his objection letter.
Dated March 27th.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think we can now move into committee for a decision, and there would be a planning condition, and the Deputy Secretary Treasurer has requested that we impose another condition regarding the payment related to the fourplex, which would be $1,000.
Sorry, I do.
Excuse
Hello?
me.
Hi, sorry. Oh, sorry. I don't mean to
What are
interrupt.
you sorry about?
But I do.
You got 10 seconds. What is
Sorry,
it?
there is a letter from the neighbor. We don't have it. I don't have it in me, like with me right now, but I was told that there is a letter that we can mail to the committee, or email to the committee.
No, thank you.
to put
Thank you
on
very
file
much.
for that.
Thank you very much. Another condition related to the payment of $1,234.11 regarding the fourplex, plus their other condition, planning's other condition of approval. And I don't need to repeat the extent of opposition to this application. So,
Can I, sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may, one last question to the applicant.
Sure.
So, sir, if you were granted the first variance but denied the other two, would you still need, would that facilitate your construction, or would you still need to flip the ground in the second floors?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
If you were granted variance 1, denied variance 3, would that facilitate the construction, or would you still need to flip?
That would be fine with us if, obviously we want all 3 variances to be approved. But if the committee feels that that one variance, but I will say that the variance that specifically deals with the rear yard, we are only 12 inches past the angular plane penetration. So in terms of,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can make it work. It's yeah.
okay, no problem. Back into committee. Anybody ready to make a motion?
I'd like to make a comment before we make a motion. I think what was expressed very heartfully from the neighborhood really represents the changes that the city is putting forward in allowing up to 4, but with the garden suite or garage or laneway suite, the potential for up to 5 units as of right on any site. And I think that's what's really at the heart of this application. And that, unfortunately, is not our purview. It's not for us to make those decisions or not. That's something that is a purview of City Council. And I think if neighbors feel strongly as these do, you should make those views known to your City Councilor, because that's who makes those rules. We are here only to enforce the margins of those rules.
Okay.
Before we go to the motion, I had a question to ask Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Would a condition that the structure not be more than 1 story above ground be in order or not?
They don't have a variance for the number of stories, so you can't restrict them from what the bylaw permits. You can only deal with the variances before you, which relate to the angular plane.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure.
For what it's worth, my inclination is to move a motion to approve, but to deny variance 3. And what I'm struggling with is whether to deny or approve variance 2. And my reason for that struggle is because it's not clear to me as to whether those neighbors are in support or not.
Mr. Chair, number 2 is for the rear.
Sorry,
whereas 3
got it
is for the
backwards.
side.
Got it backwards.
2 doesn't affect the neighbors, I think is what you're saying.
One's the main house.
1 is the main house, 2 is the rear yard, and 3 is the
side yards.
3 are the 2 side yards. No,
he's struggling.
I'm struggling. If someone else has a clarity on that, then I just want to know. I just wanted to express where my thoughts are on this application at this point.
Well, then maybe we should ask the applicant what happens if with 1, 2, and 3, if one or more of those are denied.
I think he's answered that
He's
question.
answered that question, yeah. He would just have to reconfigure the, the rooms inside the house. He'd have to put the kitchen upstairs instead of the bedrooms. I'll just throw out my thinking on this. I think, Mr. Comoric, you hit it right on the head that the essence of the opposition is to, generally, garden suites, which obviously have an impact. However, the city in its wisdom has, as a policy, allowed garden suites subject to certain requirements, 3 of which are not met in this proposal. And I don't see the extent of impact being dramatically different whether we whether we refuse some of these variances or not. I just, as he said, the massing is going to be the same. It's going to be a 2-story structure. He'll deal with a denial or 2 or 3. But I don't think the neighbors are going to be happy with a 2-story garden suite in the backyard in this property, combined with a 4-plex with all and sundry related issues. However, 4-plexes as well are permitted throughout the city. So the essence of this proposal satisfies the City of Toronto's policy regarding housing. Our issue is, how troubled are we by the extent of these variances? Right?
I would agree with your comments. I would add to them in one sense. The garden suite project is essentially still is in an experimental phase with the city. They're looking for feedback after a certain number are built. That number has not been attained yet. And I think for that reason, it behooves us to be very careful on what we approve, because there are no precedents. We are creating those precedents as we go.
Yes, I agree.
And for that reason, I think we need to be very careful in approving variances to something which is still in theoretically an experimental state, yet once approved, it will exist. We can't unapprove it.
Yeah, good thinking. Ms. Ruddock, you seem to agree with that sentiment as well?
I agree with that, and I was wrestling with which way to go, and I think you are effectively articulated my concern, and I'm a bit reluctant to approve a variance on this structure, given the novelty of garden suites, and I am concerned that it is not consistent with the character of the neighborhood, and I hear what the applicant says, that they can flip it and just put the living and dining room upstairs, but then I'm not sure I can support an application that would extend, would require variances to be able to build a garden suite when it's so novel. So even if that might be the consequences, I must say that I don't think in all good consciences I could approve a variance to the garden suite application.
And your comment would apply to the wall facing the main house as well?
I'm not comfortable approving any variances with respect to garden suites at this stage, and so I would make a motion to deny the application.
Good. Any comments before we hear a motion? Nope. You're good? You're good? You're good?
Well, if you're going to make a motion, that motion, I'm prepared to second that.
I was making the motion.
So you've moved refusal of the 3 variances?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is there a second?
And I will second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Ross, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries 3-2. Okay.
For what it's worth.
Okay, thanks for all your participation, folks. Now moving to...
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yep, I've never done this before, so I'm kind of like...
Mr. Chair, for item 13, all of the registered participants are on the line, and all the participants are what you have listed.
And none of them are in the room?
None of them are in the room.
No. Okay.
Sorry, the agent's in the room.
I think we have one in the room.
One in the room.
but the registered speakers besides the agent are all virtual.
Are you Mr. Vela, sir?
I'm sorry?
What's your name?
Simon West. I'm the agent.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Oh, you're the agent. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's good. All right. So,
Should I approach?
yeah, I just want to introduce the item briefly here.
Okay.
21 Sunset Avenue. We had a revised notice and then a subsequent revision where the coverage keeps dropping a little bit to deal with planning's opposition to and request to refuse the coverage variance. It was initially 45%, and then its first revision it went to 43, and it is currently 39.99. We have urban forestry conditions 1 and 2. We have a support petition, 3 opposition letters, and Mr. West's response to planning on their opposition to variance 1. So, Mr. West.
Yes, good morning.
Please tell us how we got to where we are today.
Okay, so to address the red herring in the room, which has to do with the staff report of refusal, it's been a bit confusing, but when I was speaking to Elisa, who is the planner, she asked me to reduce the house down to 40%. I reduced the house down to less than 40%, 39.99%. Then she came back to me later while I was away and said, no, we actually meant the entire coverage. And she actually admitted that she made a mistake when she was talking to me, that she did actually mean the entire coverage, not just the house. So the house has been reduced down to 39.99, but it also included the cabana, which pushed it up to 43. So after that, after my conversation with Alicia, where she said she'd have to send a refusal, I removed the cabana. So now the entire coverage is 39.99, which is exactly what she asked for originally. So I'm hoping that the committee would understand that I have
we don't, just for the record, we don't have any information from planning saying that they're okay with 39.3.
I do.
99.
Mr. Chair, this is what I mentioned. I got a late email saying they're okay with the second set of revisions.
Oh, gee.
So the information you
This one was
have
so messy.
in additional materials.
Okay.
It was revised and then revised again.
Yes.
Yeah, it was revised 3 times.
Okay, carry on, sorry.
So we're okay. So now you understand that the city planning was asking for 40% or less, and that's what I provided on this project.
Okay.
So can we move forward without the deferral?
Yep.
Yeah,
You're in your
great.
presentation now. So.
Okay, that's fantastic. So what we're proposing to do here is we're removing the existing bungalow. We're adding a 2-story home. I provided a zoning waiver, which outlines 4 variances that we require for approval on this house. It's a 2-story home. We don't have any tree issues. We don't have any front yard, side yard, or rear yard issues. We don't have any landscaping, soft landscaping issues at all. The issues that we have here are coverage, maximum height, FSI, and an old zoning bylaw, which has to do with the measurement to the midpoint of the roof. In all 4 of these cases, I can provide proof of prior decisions within the neighborhood, which are more than what I'm asking for. Do you want me to go through the zoning waiver? No?
No, we've read that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have revised the house 3 times.
Okay, before you sit down, panel, any questions or comments for Mr. West?
No, other than if we approve, we need to be clear on which, I guess the final revision is what we're approving,
Yeah,
which just to summarize, we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4 variances, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And those 4 variances have also all been reduced.
That is also correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And do we have drawings to relate to that?
Yes, C of A revised plans, page 1. You should be able to bring those up, and it shows
No,
the...
no, I see it in my package, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine, I just wanted to make sure it was there, that's all.
Okay. So that's the site plan. So you could go to the next plan, which is, so that's the survey, sorry. If you go to the next plan, you'll see in the rear that the cabana has been removed.
That's what it was. Okay, so so the final reduction in lot area has to do with the removal of the cabana?
Yes.
No, but no changes to the main structure itself?
No, that stayed exactly at 39.99, which is what the second revision was that I had with Alicia. She didn't see those drawings for some reason,
Okay,
even
so,
though I...
so the cabana would have put you over the 39.9?
That's exactly correct.
Okay. So I suspect at some point in the future, you may be coming back for a variance for the cabana, but that's okay. That's not what we're here for now. Any questions? I'm sorry.
We rotate this jobs.
Yeah, I see that.
Momentary.
Any other questions?
Sorry. Don, I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry, but I'll do it to you next time. No more questions or comments? Okay, so Adam, just to refresh my memory, we have all 4 registered speakers online?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll proceed in order then and invite Stephen Vella into
Hi,
the
how are
hearing.
you? Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you? If you could just, Mr.
I'm
Vella,
good, thank you.
repeat your address
So
for
I
the
just-
record.
It's 42 Ash Crescent.
Okay. So
So
go
I
ahead.
have a question now. I have a question. So did you just say that planning has approved the plans? Has planning, is
Planning has,
have any opposition?
planning has approved the issue that they were concerned about, which was coverage, which is now 39.99. Call it 4.
Okay. Okay,
40.
because I'm a friend of one of the neighbors, and I was calling in to support them and also to support planning's refusal. So planning is not refusing. So, but I would like to say that that if the committee does approve this, if the committee can link the existing plans to the approval, so that someone, if they decide to sell the property in the future, that they don't build to the variances, because the variances and because the variances that their planning is allowing are still quite large. And if you would build a different kind of a structure, for example, a rectangular box, and drop it in with these variances, it would be quite imposing and a very different look and feel than what is being proposed. So if planning is okay with the application, then if the committee can link these plans to their approval, if they decide to approve, then that's all I'm asking.
Okay, we'll consider that at the time.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Vella?
No, my only comment is this is one of these ones like we've had earlier today, and we've had it prior meetings where the reductions, the changes are so substantial that it's almost a new application, which was, I think, why the other reason we were considering deferring it. But anyway, because a lot of the objectors may now still be objecting to the original as opposed to what's before us now, and that does lead to some confusion.
Okay, can we hear from Heather Doust or Dow?
Yes, Heather Doust here.
Doust?
From, yes, Heather Doust from 69 Albright.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm
Heather.
happy to hear the cabana is not, I was going to read my letter, but it kind of changes things from listening. But I still want to say a couple points from my letter. And our big issue, if you're going to build this house is the drainage and the coverage. And I assume the pool is still going in. And so the grading aspect of it all, I don't want this large house that I believe will go further back than it presently goes. And so then they're going to have an eaves trough that's going to come down and across their concrete 4 feet and into my backyard that already floods.
Okay, just a comment.
So,
Grading
Mm-hmm.
is a building permit level matter, not this committee's.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
he
I would
also
also
said
add
that
that
soft,
metro licensing standards rules say you cannot discharge water off your property. It must be maintained on your own property.
Okay. Yeah, and then the agent there said something about there wasn't any issue with soft landscape. I feel it's a very hard landscape from my drawings that I looked at. There was very little grass in the whole yard that
No,
will be left.
there are no
after all of the
excuse
concrete
me,
around it.
excuse me, there are no landscaping variances requested.
Okay, sorry. It's just the changing of everything kind of changed my mind at the time.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to not go by exactly what I've written before.
Mm-hmm.
Also, my neighbor, I don't know if my neighbor at 67 Albright, they filed some objections and was quite detailed and showed a photo, and I don't know if they're speaking today or not. I haven't seen them.
Yes, Ms. Donor is speaking, as well as Piero Bellini.
Oh, okay, very good. That's just, but you're already saying that with the cabana, without the cabana, but then later they could bring the cabana back in, right?
Well, they'd need a variance for that, and they'd have to come before this committee again.
Okay.
We're dealing right now with an application that does not include a cabana.
Okay.
Anything else?
All right, that's all I have to say right now.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Ms. Doust? Okay, thank you, Ms. Doust. Next, we'll call on Nancy Donor. Ms. Donor?
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry. I apologize for my nervousness.
Could you give us your address, please?
My concerns.
No, could you give us your address, please?
Oh, sorry. I live with my husband at 67 Albright Avenue, and our property backyard is adjacent to the backyard at 21 Sunset.
Okay.
We're actually one of 7 properties that has a backyard adjacent to that property because of the way the street wraps around. It's on a curve, and its backyard directly connects with 5 and indirectly with 2 more. So really about 7 properties border on its backyard.
Yep.
The current property situation is that we do experience episodic flooding from having just the little bungalow there, which covers about 25% of the lot. So my main concern is that covering 40% of the lot will increase the flooding situation in our backyard. Also, I saw on the plan that there was 2 trees that were going to be removed that I guess are not considered substantial, but they have been there for 20 years. And with that reduction in vegetation combined with the increase in the lot coverage, I'm fearful of what might happen on our property if you were to approve the lot coverage increase. It is a 21% increase that they are asking for, which I don't think is minor. That's an increase over the maximum, and it's an increase of about 60% to what is there now. So I am very fearful about the situation that may occur in our backyard based on what they changed due to the lot coverage. My second comment today would be that the support petition that was registered is listing properties that are not on the street, not adjacent, and not even actually within sight of this property. So I feel like it's a little bit irrelevant. And the exceptions that were previously cited as exceeding these guidelines are not on properties where there are 7 backyards impacted. They are on properties that have 2, maybe 3 residences impacted at most, and some of them are even just bordering one neighbor or a commercial property. So I don't think that the precedents really apply in this situation for the height variation. I guess I'd like to request that the trees that border on our property be retained. They are where the cabana was going to be, but the pool equipment is still scheduled to be. They do provide both privacy and they will help offset the flooding situation. Their root system is important. I guess I'd like to see the drainage plan or an increase in the permeability of the property. I guess those are my main concerns.
Drainage, excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, drainage is a building permit issue, not this committee, okay?
Yes.
We don't deal with, we don't, excuse me, we don't deal with drainage issues. This committee does not deal with drainage issues. However, they are covered off by the building department at the building permit stage. So we're not influenced because we don't have any decision-making authority over drainage matters. This committee does not.
Yes.
But the city is concerned, and there's a process in place to deal with it.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
I don't know if my concern is heard, that covering the property with non-permeable surfaces may exacerbate an existing problem.
Again, not our issue to consider or decide on today, but it will be considered at the building permit level by the building department. There's no permeability issues identified in this. No variances requested for minimum landscaped area. We only deal with the variances that are requested.
I see.
Okay.
So for the height variance, for the 3 properties that are bordering this on the north side, because of the height request, I'd like it if they could limit themselves to the maximum and not exceed
7.5.
it. Yes.
Is there anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Panel, any questions or comments for Ms. Donor?
Just comments, because again, there's been so many revisions here, and I totally understand the neighbors not confusion and not understanding what's actually being presented now, and that's really why the deferral might have been appropriate. But notwithstanding that, the height that they are requesting now, they're no longer requesting 8.5, it is now 8.18 meters. So that's really only an increase of 0.68 of a meter, as opposed to what they were originally requesting. So just so you understand that. And I believe there.
I do, but I would still like them to stick to the maximum because it is on the south side.
Okay, and then with regard to permeability, I believe there is an indication that whatever patio area is to be done is going to be done in a permeable material, and we could tie that as a condition, I believe. You have no problem with that, okay. So we could address some of your drainage issues or permeability issues. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, our final speaker is Piero Bellina.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Mr. Bellina.
Yes, indeed. Sir?
Yes, could you give us your address, please?
Absolutely. I live at 71 Albright Avenue.
Okay.
Which basically my backyard fronts onto the north side of the proposed building.
Yes, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. I really have 2 concerns. One is the height of the house relative to the distance the side of the house is to my back fence. Right now, I understand the width on my back fence is 4.9 feet or 4 feet 9 inches. I don't know what the law permits. I just want assurances that that is within norm, such that the height of the house does not impede any sunlight onto my backyard. Right now, we enjoy 100% sun coverage. I've done so for over 20 years. I would like that to continue. The second concern I have is on the second floor of the house, on the north side wall, there are 3 windows. 2 for a bathroom, so 1 for each bathroom and 1 for a laundry room. I would like something to be done such that the windows, or someone standing at the windows, I should say, cannot look directly into my backyard. Now, I understand the north side windows are for sunlight. That's fine. I would like for the windows perhaps to be smaller or frosted, such that I do not lose any expectation of privacy. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions or comments for Mr. Bolina? Okay, Mr. West, we'll call you back up for your rebuttal.
Thank you. So as you can see in the site plan, or sorry, the survey, I have actually provided a porous rear patio. There are 2 trees that we are removing. They're not protected by the bylaws, and they're scraggly trees. And they're not very old either. Regarding the drainage issues, obviously, you've kind of answered that question. Grading will take care of any flooding issues and forcing the water to go towards the street. So I don't think that's really going to be an issue, other than the fact that maybe I'll be willing to show the grading to the neighbors to show them that it actually works as far as mitigating flooding in the back. From what I understand, in this area of Etobicoke, there is a lot of flooding. It's always a concern of mine whenever I'm designing a home, and that's why a lot of the times I do use porous properties. The existing driveway currently goes all the way up to the property line. That driveway is actually being removed, and there's going to be a 4-foot wide green space with a partial path over it. But once again, those are stepping stones which allow water to actually drain into a swale system, which would go to the culvert of the street. So I have looked at the drainage issues as I'm designing this home, and I am very much aware of them. Regarding the first applicant, so that would take care of the questions from 67 Albright and potentially Heather Doust from 69 Albright. Regarding anything to do with the height, if you look at the front elevation, you will notice that the side of the house that faces Heather at 69 and 67 Albright Avenue, the height of that roof is actually less than 9.5 meters. The only area that's actually above the 9.5, which becomes 9.92, is a peak of the roof which takes up about 30% of the entire roof plan. So most of the house actually is slightly below the 9.5 meters, but we're measuring to the maximum. But the front elevation shows through a bubbled area where that area is bigger than the 9.5 requirement. And I'd ask to keep that because it is a minor variance. Regarding the windows privacy issue, obviously my client would enjoy privacy as well, so I'm quite sure there's going to be privacy systems set up on the inside, whether they be through curtains, whether they be through frosted glass. I'm not sure at this time, but I don't believe windows really are a zoning issue anyway. So I think it's really up to my client as to how they want to deal with that.
Thank you. Panel, any questions or comments for Mr. West? Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Kumar.
Going to wait for everyone else, but okay. Okay, so I'm assuming you would not be opposed to tying to the current site plan?
No, not at all.
Okay. And I'm assuming you would also not be opposed to frosting the one window, the bathroom window on the north side?
I don't think my client would be opposed to that, other than the fact that if I would do something like that, I
Do
would
the lower half only?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that,
Thank you.
because that's what I shouldn't say what I do, but yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. It hides the wiggly bits.
I mean, that's for your client's self-interest in any case, so.
Yeah. I mean, they might use screen shutters.
But you're not opposed to, I mean, there was a request for frosting, and it's a reasonable request given.
It is, but sometimes frosting can be kind of not very attractive.
Understood.
So as long as we disguise it somehow, then I think it would be okay.
Okay, fair. And so in terms of the site plan, you're also okay with maintaining the proposition of the permeable pavers, or is that a requirement of your approval in any case?
No, that was me really just thinking about the drainage that is currently potentially a problem in the back.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that, because, I mean, a pool area is defined as permeable, which we know it's not.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is a good mitigation of that situation.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, perfect. Those are all my questions. Unless anyone else has any, I think I can try to formulate all of that into a motion. Okay. So I commend the fact that there were a number of revisions. I think we've sort of finally got to something that's workable and acceptable. So I would move to approve the final revision, subject to forestry conditions 1 and 2, subject to the approval being tied to the revised site plan with respect to coverage and permeable pavers, and subject to at least lower portion of the north-facing washroom window being frosted.
I don't want to use the word frost. I just want to use the word screened.
Somehow screened.
Please.
Okay.
That's on the second floor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you capture everything?
I think I have. I don't know.
Mr. Merrick, did you want to put a date on the final revision, seeing as we're...
Well, it's whatever was in the
second revision.
The second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's stamped on the city drawings. I don't know what the date was.
That wouldn't be it.
I want to make sure we're talking about the right revision.
Yeah, it's on page 1 and it says CA revised plan.
We have it date stamped as April 9th.
That makes sense.
That's what I'm seeing on my.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can either incorporate that in your motion or make it a friendly amendment, whichever you want to do.
Yeah.
Makes no difference to me.
Make it friendly.
Make it a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor? That's unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West.
Okay, just to clarify the conditions, it's as amended based on the second revision tied to the site plan, which is revised, date stamped April 9th, as it relates to the coverage and the permeable pavers. The second floor bathroom window shall be screened on the lower half, and forestry 1 and 2.
Okay,
That's great. Thanks so much.
thank you. Okay, moving forward to item 1417 Sunnydale Drive. This is an application to construct a 2-story rear addition. There are 6 variances. No conditions requested by any agency. We have 2 opposition letters, including a registered speaker from number 15, Sunnydale. I'm not really sure we need a presentation on this before we hear from the speakers.
There's one letter from in the additional materials, did you mention?
Yeah, there's a letter from a neighbor requesting privacy screen on the west side of the deck, but there's no deck variance, so we'll have to, maybe in discussion, we can sort that out. Shadi Arani, you're the agent for this application. Are you available?
Good afternoon.
Hi. Would you, it's a pretty straightforward application here. Would you be okay with just leaving it to answering any questions that the panel may have?
Well, we do have a person in opposition.
Yeah. Is that okay, though, just for our purposes right now? I don't think we need to.
Mr. Chair, only if that.
My panel would prefer a presentation, so I've been outvoted. So please proceed.
Sure. My name is Shadi Arani from 685 Shepherd Avenue East. So we're, as you mentioned, requesting 6 minor variances. I'll try to be very brief. And this is to accommodate the second floor and rear addition to the existing single-family detached dwelling. Basically, the proposal is building a second floor on top of the existing footprint of the one-story house, and also adding a small 2-story and 1-story rear addition to the back. So if you don't mind, I do have a presentation material just to make it simpler. If you can pull that up, I would appreciate it, that I had submitted to the committee. So before we started designing, we made sure to study the approved lot coverage and floor space indexes in the neighborhood, which are slide 1 and 2, just to make sure that what we are proposing is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and the both new houses and additions along the streets in that neighborhood. And on attached map, you can see some of these approvals, which shows that the lot coverage is higher than 37%, which is what we are proposing has been approved. The second map also shows the FSIs and shows that you can see that higher FSIs have been approved closer to this property. In terms of front yard setback, if you don't mind going to the next slide, please. What has triggered the front yard is really the existing footprint of the ground floor. We really have to zoom in to show where that 4 centimeters came from, because we are building on top of the existing footprint, and the existing footprint has encroached into the front yard setback by that tiny green sliver by 4 centimeters that has triggered the variance. And for the variances 4 and 5, it's the side yard setback on the east side. You can see this is in the front elevation, and you can also switch to the next slide, which is the rear elevation. That's really the setback that we are requesting, which has also triggered the variance for the eaves, which is encroaching basically to, it's in addition to what the bylaw requires. But I want to mention that on the existing house, the existing eaves has the same setback as what we are proposing. So we are basically keeping the same eaves in the same location in terms of water management. We are just raising it by 1 floor from the ground floor to the second floor. I also want to mention that we reached out to all the neighbors with the help of the owner. We door knocked on all nearby properties, dropped off letters if we couldn't reach them, just to make sure that they are all okay with our proposal. The neighbor on the west side, on the 17th, which had issues about the deck, although as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, the deck is not one of the variances. We still came to an agreement with them in terms of planting a row of trees on that side, just to make sure that we maintain the privacy and they do not have any concern. They no longer have any objections with regards to the deck. And I believe they submitted another letter and they asked for their objection letter to be revoked. So I tried to be as quick as possible. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions for Ms. Arani?
Just one.
Yep.
On the east side setback, you've already confirmed the eaves current versus proposed. What about the main wall? Is the setback the same?
Yes. So the existing setback is 0.44 meters, basically 44 centimeters. The bylaw requires 60 centimeters. So we are just maintaining the same above the garage. We are building on the existing wall, and we are extending the same wall in the back. So yes,
Yeah.
the setback is the same as what's there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're good. Proceed. We have a registered speaker, Mr. Selcook. Mr. Selcook?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Yücel Selçuk. I'm living 15 Sunnydale, east of 17 Sunnydale. I have a couple concerns here. First of all, if you have a chance to bring what the drawing they show it, already they is almost lined with my property. They don't have any room there. If you have a chance to bring that drawing, you will see it. Yeah, technically, if you have a chance to a little bit zoom out, then you will see it. Technically, 44 centimeters right now. They just have the ground, first floor, garage side. This is correct, but just one floor. Now they want to add second floor, and plus they want to do stucco this part. I mean, this business technically, when they do stucco, technically they not can be 44 anymore because stucco behind they have like some home stuff that means minimum they lose another 2 inch. What that means, they already the eaves part, they already my property. Second, the slope is very high. That means whatever in snow or something, I already use the side door, and that all snow come to my property, and I have 2 kids, and that is create a safety issue. I cannot accept. Second, they said just they not the add addition the back of the garage. Right now they don't have anything. Almost I think around 10 feet is far from my property. Now they bring the exactly 0.4 meters. That's also not acceptable for me. I have couple of concerns from that. First of all, how they will build it without no any space, and then that means affecting my property. What they finish in my side, when they finish the wall or the property, that exactly be like just 40 centimeters. I think that's not acceptable. And my other concern, I already have a windows in that side, and then block my daylight. That means I cannot get any light. This is my concern. I think there's not small variation, and affect me a lot. I said it's all snow. Everything's come to my side. Is they don't have any space technically, and I'm not familiar with this kind of stuff really. And when I built my house, I take care of my neighbor. Now they affect me.
Okay. You finished your remarks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Panel, any questions or comments for Mr. Selchuk? Okay, Ms. Arani, can you come back and do your rebuttal?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In terms of windows and privacy, I just wanted to briefly mention that we are not proposing any windows on that elevation facing their house. So I understand that they do have windows, but in terms of privacy, would not cause any privacy issues because there won't be any overlooking issue. And as for the eaves, as I mentioned before, the eaves is already at the same location, and we are just basically extending it and raising it 1 floor up. And you can see that same setback and same eaves in different houses on the street. So it's not unprecedented because many houses there have additions, and all the garages on the street have the same setback more or less, including the neighbors to the property line. So they're all very close to the property line. So many additions chose to build over that or extend behind it.
Is that it?
Yes.
Have you completed your rebuttal remarks?
Yes.
Thank you. Panel, any questions or comments for the agent? Yes, Mr. Kamara.
One question, coming back to the eaves, given that this will be a new construction above the existing wall, you have an opportunity to perhaps pull back the soffit to better the eaves encroachment situation. Have you considered that?
What I suggested was reducing the eave size to go with narrow eaves to make sure that there would still be some distance maintained. Right now we have 14 centimeters from the roof to the property line, just to make sure that there would be some basically some distance maintained. We've already reduced the overhang of the roof from a typical overhang to 1 foot, just to make sure that we've basically done our best to maintain some distance from the roof to the property line.
Okay, but you're still maintaining eaves there. I mean, the other option would be to redesign the roof so that there are no eaves on that side. But anyway, that's a little more extensive. But so you are pulling back the soffit overhang to some degree.
That is correct. And I think not putting an eave would be done only by increasing the wall height of main wall on that side. So
Correct.
the slope would be towards the front and the back. And I think that would have more of an impact on the neighbor than having a sloped roof.
It would probably trigger another variance too. But okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a question, Ms. Rani. The owner of number 19, one of the immediate neighbors, has asked for a condition to require a privacy screen, probably a 1.5 meter high privacy screen at the west end of the deck. Now, I guess I'm asking you if you would be okay if we were to impose such a condition, even though you don't have a variance requirement for the deck.
So although the two neighbors have, they sat down together and they wrote an agreement internally between the two. So either a row of trees would be proposed or a privacy screen. I think the preference of the owner was a row of trees. That's why the owner of 19 basically wrote another letter and asked for their objection to be revoked because they're no longer objecting to the application. I don't think the owners would have any issues with you imposing a condition for the privacy screen,
Well,
because
if
they basically, even with
if they're in discussions and trees are an option, I don't think it would be appropriate for us to require a screen. I think, you know, sometimes we allow these things to be treated as civil matters and they're dealt with outside of our process. So, you know, perhaps we could just leave it at that. Let them figure something out between them. Sounds like it's already figured out. We just didn't get an update from the owner of number 19 that.
Mr. Chair, it's in your additional materials. There's, please be advised, we have now reached an agreement with the proponents for this variation, so we withdrew our objection and can now support the application. And that's from number 19.
Didn't read it, my apologies. Okay, redundant issue. Thank you. So we ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to move a motion to approve. I think the application is a good one. It meets the 4 tests, and I do not believe there are any conditions.
No, you're right. Seconder.
Second, I'll second.
Ms. Ruddock, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Rani.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, before we move on to item 15, we're closing in on 1 o'clock and there's some people from the 1 o'clock session that are on the WebEx, so I just wanted to advise them that we're still on the AM session. We won't be starting the 1 p.m. session on time, and we'll have further instructions as we finish this session as to when the 1 p.m. session is going to start. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll figure it out at the end, but it looks like it might be 2 o'clock. Well, you can figure that out later. Okay, item 15 is 114 Laurel Avenue. Purpose is to convert the existing garage into habitable space and to construct a new attached garage. I'm going to take a risk and suggest that this is very straightforward and does not need a presentation. There's an urban forestry condition, 2 variances, and transportation services is okay. So panel, do I have your agreement that we treat this as a straightforward matter not requiring a presentation? Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay, Mr. McKinda? Did you hear that conversation, and are you okay with not presenting, but
Yes, I'm fine.
potentially
I'm fine.
you're standing in a perfect position to answer any questions that might arise? Can we jump right into that?
I guess you saved the best till the end, eh?
We do. Well, no, there's one more after you.
Oh, there's one more, yeah.
You're second best.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe
Just
that's okay.
Just
So
one.
why don't we do that then? We'll just, questions or comments from the panel? None. Okay, so we're going to go right into committee and get a decision for you.
Thank you. Can I just ask one question
Sure.
about the urban forest? What are they requesting?
Number one, which is a application to injure
Okay.
or
That's fine.
something, a city-owned tree.
Fine. Good.
Injure or damage.
Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
You're okay?
Yep. Thanks.
Or a motion?
I'd like to move a motion to approve the application as it meets the 4 tests and it's subject to the forestry condition number 1.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Mr. Komarek, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Long wait for a short answer.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's nice meeting you. Get a complicated one and we'll listen to you for 5 minutes. Okay, number 16, the final item on the 9:30 session is 199 30th Street. Purpose is to construct a new warehouse building. There are 2 variances. Community planning has 2 conditions of approval. And transportation has a condition that there be, because the driveway to the rear of this property is so narrow, it doesn't allow ingress and egress at the same time. So they have asked for a sign that outbound vehicles must yield to inbound vehicles. And that, I think, is all we have. Panel, do we need a presentation? We're good?
Yeah, I just would like to make a comment. This has been before the committee before, and at that time, in 2021, transportation asked for 2 conditions of approval, one of which the applicant has fulfilled, and the other one is now the new.
The sign.
Yeah. So I guess we just, because originally I was going to say, why not just put both of those conditions in, but that's not going to make sense. No. Okay.
Okay.
Never mind. It's getting too late.
Mr. Qureshi?
My name is Shamil Qureshi. I'm speaking from 2275 Lakeshore Boulevard West.
Okay, we've just decided as a panel that we don't need a presentation from you, that your application is very straightforward. I've got a couple of questions, but I'm wondering if you'd be okay with just limiting your participation with us to answering questions.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, that's okay. I'll just ask you a couple. Are you okay with the 2 conditions requested by community planning?
Yes, we're okay.
And are you okay with transportation services condition requiring a sign in the parking lot, I guess, to the effect that outbound vehicles must yield to inbound vehicles?
Yes, we're okay with that as well.
Okay, good. Panel, any other questions or comments? Then we'll go into committee for a motion.
Yeah, I realize now what I was trying to say. The signs and the landscaping were in the added material, but
from the
one of the 2 transportation conditions, I believe, was a convex mirror, which is now shown on the drawings. But
in want a sign.
But when we approve, we're not necessarily ensuring that that gets installed unless we put it as a condition.
Sure.
So for that reason, my preference was to go with the 2 original conditions. But
well, sure, Mr. Qureshi, would that be okay to impose the other transportation commission about the convex mirror for added safety?
Which you've already shown on your drawings anyway.
Hello? Mr. Qureshi?
Hi. Hello?
Yes. Are you okay with, there's another condition that I think you've already complied with, the installation of a convex mirror. This is regarding the access ingress egress issue on the driveway. Would you be okay with the convex mirror and the sign?
Yes, we're okay
If
with
we
that.
impose those as conditions?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're ready for a motion then.
I don't see that wording. Is it in the first or second report?
It was in the 2021 conditions, but.
If I could just clarify something.
Yep.
So basically with our discussion with transportation services, they said we need some sort of a system to make sure that cars coming in from both ends to look at the safety of that. So if you see the site plan, what we provided now is a traffic control signals on both ends. So that's why then the only additional condition they had was to have the sign.
Oh. So you're actually going to put in signals?
Yeah, some sort of just a sensor with a flashing signal to let the car know that one car has entered into the driveway.
Okay, no, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I just wanted to ensure that somehow that's tied to our approval, that's all.
So that's on the site plan, is it? We can tie it to that. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, the site plan's on the screen.
Trying to find.
Might be able to see.
Here's the site plan on the wall.
Perfect. Okay, so what I would suggest then is, could I do a motion, or are we good? Okay,
Yeah,
so I believe it meets the 4 tests. I'd like to move approval subject to the 2 planning conditions and subject to the transportation condition with regards to signs and landscaping, and tying it to the site plan with respect to traffic control on the site, as indicated on the site plan.
Perfect. Is there a seconder for Mr. Kamurik's motion? Mr. Ross? You seconded it.
I did.
Okay, all in favor? That's approved unanimously. Thank you, sir.
I like the idea of going beyond just the sign.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now we have to ask staff when it would be convenient for them to restart. It is now 12:51. 2.
I think sound check at 10 to 2, and we can resume at 2.
We can start at 2?
I think so. Do you want more, Mr.
No,
Chair?
we're fine. We got over an hour. Okay, we will start the 1 p.m. session at 2 p.m. Don't forget to stop your videos. Turn your mic off. Good.